So, all right. So we're live now. Thank you for braving the exciting world of new technology and joining us today. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Okay, cool. So this is GoGo Talks, brought to you by GoGoTix. I'm your host Malachi Johns, as always, and today we are joined by the one and only legendary Big Tony Fisher of Trouble Funk. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Oh man, thank you, man, for having me.
No, of
Been a
course,
long time.
indeed. Well, let's start with why don't you tell everybody the your history in the music industry and how you got started and up to where you are today.
Man, that's a long story,
That's
but
hey,
I'm trying to make it short.
no, you don't have to make it short. You can make it long as you want. Like I'm probably going to stop you occasionally and ask you for more detail on certain things. So
Right.
take your time. Yep.
Please
Take
do.
your time.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I can talk a lot, man. You know,
I am aware that both of us
I
can.
got.
Every time we get on the
I,
phone, we're on the phone for like 3 hours. So, yeah,
yeah,
it's no problem. That's it. This is one of our phone calls just on camera.
yes,
Totally
sir.
fine. All right, go
I
ahead.
got. I got a lot to say.
Go
But yeah, man, I've been. Well, for those of y'all that don't know me, if you're joining, this little Go Talk show. I am Big Tony, Trouble Funk. Been in the business 40 plus years. And I started off as a professional at the age of 15. And the reason why I know that is because a friend of mine that played drums, we used to play, he got me a gig at 15, man, at this place called a Part 3. Now, that's probably way before your time, Malachi. It used to be on
Oh, wait.
Georgia Avenue, Northwest.
Yeah, it was probably a little before my time, I'm sure.
It was, look, I wasn't supposed to have been up there, man, but hey, he got me a gig up there. And I asked him, man, I was like 15 years old. I say, how do you know when you turn professional? He said, did you get paid tonight? I said, yeah. He said, well, you're professional.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Yeah.
according to that, I've been playing professionally since I was 15 years old.
And so, but how did you even get started playing in the first place to even get to be professional? What made you pick up?
Oh, man, that's a crazy story. Actually, I used to live in Northwest when I was about like 11 years old. I used to live off the U Streets, 17th and U. No, I'm sorry, 17th and T.
Okay.
And we used to go up to Meridian Hill Park, to play, back then. Long story short, man, I was on my way up there, to go to the park. And there's some high-rise apartments up here on the left-hand side. I think it was like close to Panorama Road.
Okay.
Long story short, moving fast forward, somebody got evicted. I didn't know the meaning of eviction back then. I was too young to know, So people was going through the pile picking up stuff, and I seen the guitar. I picked it up, headed back down the hill to the house. This is the crazy part. On the way down the house, this guy comes walking up, and he looked at me and said, "Where you going with my guitar?" And I told him, I said, "Hey, I found it in the pile up the street, blah, blah, blah," right? He's like, "Man, that's my guitar." So he was like, "I can have you arrested." I was scared because I was a kid. So I gave him the guitar back and started walking, tried to haul ass down, back down to the house. So he called me back. I was like, "Oh," he said, "Come here." I went back. He gave me the guitar and said, "Look, the next time I see," he was pissed too, man, because all the stuff was sitting out there. So the next time I see you, you better learn how to play this guitar. I'm gonna take it back.
Oh wow.
Me, like the fool, man. I'm practicing. I went home and I was practicing every day, trying to learn how to play guitar in case he see me again. I can say I learned how to play it. So I would listen to the radio. I would look at the TV and just try to mimic anything I hear. You know, one day I seen Johnny Cash on TV playing I Walk the Line. That was the first thing I learned how to play on my guitar. Dum 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 dum. That was the first thing I learned how to play on guitar. And it's like anything I hear, I can actually learn. I can just play it. It was just that simple, you know. There was a TV show that came on back then. I think it was called The Monkees, and they had this little crazy broadcast thing at the end where it plays the tuning of the guitar. I don't know if you remember this, but it's like dum 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 dum, and that's how I learned how to tune my guitar. So my sister broke my guitar. It was a guitar. It wasn't a bass. It was a guitar. My sister broke it, and my mom's promised to get me another one for Christmas, and she did. She got me a guitar, a bass guitar. It was at a little music store over here off of 8th Street. This is like way back in the early 70s, man. It was and it was, oh man, I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, the same people that owned Chuck Levin's used to own that store, that music store. You know, it had burned down, and that's when they opened Chuck Levin's. You know, but she got me a bass guitar, a little amp, and she got my little brother a pair of toy drums, and man, I just been playing ever since. I played ever since. So that's pretty much my story, man. Moving fast forward, we moved to Southeast, and I played with a couple of other groups. You know, me and Dyke got a show together. Now, let's see. I would say it was around about 77 when Rio came to me. Rio Edwards, you familiar with Rio Edwards, right? Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know. I just sent a message to technical support, and they didn't respond yet. But maybe they just went ahead and fixed it because
somebody don't want this interview to happen.
Oh no! We got my man Joe Jackson always talking about the Go-Go Illuminati. The Go-Go Illuminati is trying to shut down the interview. But all right. Well, thanks everybody for staying on. Everybody can hear and see both of us now, right? Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so the last thing I heard was the guy told you to take the bass and go home and practice, and you went home and practiced, and then and then what happened after that?
Well, after a while, my sister actually broke the strings on my guitar, and I didn't know anything about where to get no strings at, man. My mom's bought me another guitar, bought me a bass guitar this time, because back then we didn't know the difference between a bass and a lead. All I knew is that the guitar I had 6 strings, and the guitar she bought me had 4. And back then, and she bought my brother a pair of drums, a pair of toy drums. Now here's the interesting thing about this story. She got my guitar from, I don't know if you remember this place, but there was a music store on 8th Street, 8th and 8th Street, Northeast, way back in the day. That music store was actually owned by the Levins family. It burned down later, and that's when they opened Chuck Levin's. Okay, so here we go again. Oh my God.
Keep going. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
So
just had to refresh it. I'm on with the technical support, and they told me to because you went out again for a second for me, but just keep going. Just don't worry about me.
yeah,
Just keep going.
okay. So yeah, I just want to make sure you can hear. I just didn't want to be talking just to be talking. All right.
Yeah.
So basically, like I said, that music store was owned by the Levins family.
Yep.
You know, and it burned down later. I don't know if it was during the riot or what, but anyway, they wound up opening up Chuck Levins after that, shortly after that. This is when I was living in Northwest. All right. Soon after that, we had moved to Southeast. Yeah, I was living over here in Sheridan Road, Southeast, in the projects, and I'd say by the time I turned 14, I was developing a little rep for playing bass. So all the musicians started coming around wanting to jam with me and stuff like that. Me and Dyke, we've been playing together pretty much all our lives. Me, Dyke, and Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And either I was over, at Lottie house, or he was over my house, and we was always jamming, And we had put together a group called 8000 BC. And 8000 BC, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was managed by a guy by the name of Al. I forgot Al's last name. And, we went around and did some nice little shows and stuff like that. Ain't get paid no money. and then we went on to do some other bands. And then one day, I'd say around about 17 years old, Rio came and knocked on my door.
Mm-hmm.
Rio Edwards. He was the founding member of Trouble Band and Show. Now, I had seen Trouble Band and Show a couple of times down in Anacostia. Trouble Band and Show was a top 40 R&B cabaret band.
And is that what your other bands were doing too? Was it more like top?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But Dyke and I, we always tried to do original music. We always had, tried to create original music. Even with the top 40s, we would like throw some little original stuff in there, little original jams, I had no idea of Chuck Brown and Soul Surgery. Well, I heard of them, but I had no idea of what go-go was at the time or any of that. You know what I'm saying? So just moving fast forward, man. I'll say when Rio came to ask me to join the group, and of course I said yes. Dyke didn't join immediately. I was like, I've been following Dyke to all these bands. It's like I'm gonna do my own thing for a change. This could be an opportunity, and it turned out to be that's what it was, an opportunity. So Dyke was like, man, I'm telling you, man, we get ready to do this, we get ready to do that with the other band. By this time, we was in a band called Demolition, and that's what it was, Demolition. It was crazy, but he tried to get me to come back and join that group. I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and work with this, because they was actually performing and getting, pay shows, from here to Cambridge, Trouble Band and Show. So about 2 weeks later, Dyke came over. I guess, I wouldn't come back over there, so he came back to join me, in Trouble Band and Show. We, like I said, for a minute, we played the top 40s. And one day we was practicing in this, what do you call it, daggone thing? Coffee shop on Minnesota Avenue. We was rehearsing in the coffee shop. The guy let us rehearse in the coffee shop. The only problem was this dude that owned the coffee shop, he would get drunk sometimes, come in there cussing everybody out, telling us to get out, And then I guess it happened one too many times. Rio got tired of it. In the process, we had performed at this place called the Club The Burn. We did a cabaret, and I think it was like from 8 to 11 or something like that there. So we did a cabaret at the Club The Burn. After we did the cabaret, the show was over. Everybody went home, and I was the last one because I used to help Rio pack up all the equipment and put it back on the website. So I was always the first one there and the last one to leave, other than Rio. You know, and Ted Hawkins was the owner at the time of the Club of Burn. So when I left out, after we got the truck packed, I left out to go get my car, and I seen a line, man, up the side of the building. And here there's like something to 12. And it's like, I went back in, I was like, yo, man, what's this line doing out here? It's like, the show is over. So he said, they getting ready for the go-go. We have another show from 12 to 6 in the morning. So they getting ready for the go-go, like Chuck Brown the Soul Searchers is playing. I said, you mind if I stay around and check it out? He said, nah, you don't mind at all. That was my first go-go experience. Now, here's the thing about my first go-go experience. It wasn't much different from what we were doing at the time. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Chuck was playing the same top 40s that we were playing. The only difference was he wouldn't stop. Come in from one song, he'd go into that beat, play that beat for a while, talk to the people, and then ease his way into another song. I didn't realize the significance of that until much, much, much later. So, going back to the coffee shop, Rio cussed the guy out. This happened all after the Club The Burn experience. Rio cussed the guy out and pretty much packed up the stuff and is like, you know, I ain't dealing with this no more. So we didn't know what we was going to do, where we was going to go for rehearsals or nothing. But all I knew was that Rio was tired of dealing with it. I made a suggestion. I say, Rio, why don't you go talk to the guy out there at the Club The Burn and see if we can get rehearsals on the off day that nothing's going on. And he was like, what the hell, you know, let's try it. We rolled out there. And we talked to Ted, and Ted was like, okay, I'm going to do your deal better. I'm going to let you rehearse here, and I'm going to pay you to open up for Chuck. So Chuck needed an opening act, you know, for the Club to Burn. Because this, to keep in mind, this thing was from 12 to 6 in the morning. 12 to 6 in the morning. So we had a place to rehearse. We opened up a Chuck. The first 2 months, people just looked at us like we was like from a foreign country or something. It's like people, like nobody would dance after the show. Everybody go in the dressing room, get to arguing and fighting. You know, who was the reason why? Now keep in mind, I was just a bass player. I had no mic. Rio had no idea about my vocal abilities because I had been singing at the part 3, and you couldn't tell me I wasn't Larry Graham back then because Larry Graham was my bass hero, you know. So they found out I could sing at the part 3, and they used to call me Big Youngin. Big Youngin. You know, hit that Larry Graham thing again, you know. And so I was standing by the highway, waiting in the rain, you know. So moving fast forward back to the Club to Burn. Waiting in the rain,
There you go.
So,
I didn't know we were going to get go today.
I can hear myself. I can hear myself. Yeah. Okay. Is that it? Are we done now? Okay. Messed up my train of thought.
Sorry, can you hear me? Had a weird little echo.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that too. That's kind of like, yeah, caught me off guard. Is everything back to normal now? Hello? Oh Lord, there we go. All right, well I'm gonna stay right here and hopefully you'll get back to me. Man, every time we get to the good part. All right. Okay, can you hear me? I know, man. It's one of those things. I can hear myself. Mm. Why did it have to happen on my show? Oh my goodness. Can you hear me, man? Malachi, are you there? Hello?
Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure you can hear me.
This is
All right.
crazy.
I know, man. You know, hey, man, we're going to get it right. If we don't.
And thank you.
Yeah, it is, man. But, you know, it's worth it. I believe it's worth it.
Indeed, indeed. And thank you to everybody for still sticking around. Thank you for your patience. And hopefully we should be good to go now. And okay. All right. So let's keep going. Okay.
So where was I? Okay. We're going to pick up from the Club to Burn. Like I said, you know, we start rehearsing at the Club to Burn in exchange for opening up for Chuck on the Friday. And we would actually play for about three hours, like nonstop.
Wow.
Yeah. We would play for like 3 hours nonstop, man. And the people would not dance. No, man, because the thing is that we was playing basically the same. And I mean, we sounded great. Trouble Band and Show sounded wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the way we played our music was like different from Chuck. It was totally different from the way Chuck was doing it. Mm-hmm. And we was playing a lot of the same music. It's like the biggest difference was Chuck never stopped. We stopped between songs.
Right.
Chuck would go into that beat and just ease his way into another song. Chuck would go into a beat. Let's say, for instance, he'll be playing something like OJ's Used to Be My Girl.
Right.
And then after he come out of that song, and he would never play the whole song. He would tease it and play the meat of it. He would play the meat of the song for a lot of them. And then he'll go into a verse, and then he'll go back into the pocket and play with it some more. Yeah. Okay. So he'll be going doom 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 doom, and then he'll be talking to the crowd. You know, special dedication out to so and so. Don't forget about the cameraman standing tall up against the wall. You know, blah blah blah. This that and other. You know, and then he'll say something like, "All right, fellas, come on, let's hit it. She used to be my girl." You know what I'm saying? Going to the left, and then go back into the pocket. You know what I'm saying? And then go back, you know, to another song. So none of that stuff registered at the time with us. I'm just telling you what I remembered.
Right.
We would perform. After we perform, we'd go in the back of the dressing room. And then they'd get to arguing and fussing about whose fault and pointing the finger. What was the reason why we couldn't get the people to respond? Because we just knew we was the shit. Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But first, real quick, I want to interrupt for 1 second and just call everybody's attention to the fact that I don't think anybody else got Big Tony to sing on their show. So Gogotalx has the best interviews. You get an interview and you get a show. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the exclusive. I appreciate it.
Hey, only for you, Malachi. Only for you, brother. But yeah, man. So they would leave and go home, and I would stay because I was just that fascinated with what Chuck was doing, you know. And I would stay and sit on the side of the stage because they had like a really big stage where you could set two bands up at one time. So Chuck would sit up on one side, Trouble would sit up on the other side, and I would just sit on the side of the stage, man, and just try to figure out what it is that they're doing that we're not, you know. Right. And this happened for a couple of months, almost a couple of months, man. And then one day a bulb went off. It was like, okay, I knew it was between Rick, Chuck, and the crowd. There was a connection there,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
between and Chuck. At the time, Chuck had just cut Buster Loose.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It hadn't even came out yet.
Mhm.
But everybody knew from the reaction of the crowd that that song was going to be a hit.
Okay.
A year before it even came out, he
So they
would
were
experiment with the
playing
song.
it for a year before he even put the
Yeah,
record out.
about
Okay.
a year before it came out. Yeah,
Okay.
he hadn't even had the lyrics to it.
Gotcha. Which
You
is
know what I'm saying? Yeah, he just had the hook line.
okay.
You know, and he'd do little hook lines. Let me hear y'all say it. You know, and they let me hear y'all say it. And give me the big y'all. Them down, down, down. You know,
Yep.
and he would always play that before he'd take a break.
Okay.
And either that or that little Mission Impossible. You know, it was either that or the other one, depending on how many breaks he took.
Gotcha.
So, moving fast forward, one rehearsal is like that. The week after I kind of thought I had it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
We had rehearsal that week after that last show we did with Chuck. And I went to Rio and I said, Rio, I think I know what it takes to make these people dance, but I'm going to need a microphone.
Right.
At this point, everybody had a mic but me, everybody in the band. And Rio was like, what the hell, man? We tried everything else. You know, we'll try your way.
Might as well give it a shot, right?
Yeah. So Rick, you remember my man Rick Nixon, the original drummer?
Mm-hmm.
Rick was the music director at the time.
Okay.
So when Rio came in and said, okay, I want all of y'all to try it Tony's way. He wants to try it. Everybody else done tried it. Let's let Tony. Rick was like, man, what do he know? I'm the music director, man. I'm not going to listen to him. Rio say, you either listen to Tony or you get your ass up and go home.
Wow.
So, Sugarfoot used to start off the show with this fancy roll. You know what I'm saying? Back in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he would start it off. Well, I knew we had to start off with the drums and the congos, but I was like, Rich ain't gonna be able to do that, and I can't show him how to do it. So I came up with my own little intro, drum intro. So I asked Rick, I said, I want you to open up like this. And play that beat right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the time, I called myself playing Trans Europe Express. It was a similar beat to Trans Europe Express.
Which is craft work, right?
Craft work, yeah. Yep. And, but it turned out to be something else called Roll With It.
Okay. Okay.
So that was the very first song that we created at the Club The Burn that made the people dance. So I had got to know some of the people. They didn't know me, but I got to know some of the faces and the names of some of the people that Chuck would talk to. And what I would do, I would get on there and pretty much do what Chuck did.
Right.
Just call some names, you know? Right. So while Rick playing that beat, and I was like, yeah, special dedication going out to so-and-so, so-and-so. And I was like, I knew what I was doing. Never did it before.
Right, right. Hey, that's battle sometimes. You just roll with it. Yep.
So then the people started coming closer to the stage. And then it was getting good to me, so I would do some ad lib. Yeah, we're gonna funk you up. Yeah, because you know, whatever came to my mind that was funky, I'll say it. Right. You know, oh, get on down, y'all. Now a lot of it was, like I said, it was just another way of mimicking what Chuck was doing. Mm-hmm. Only I was trying to find my own words. Right. You know, and before you know it, man, people start coming back in, and they start dancing, and then people start coming up to me with these little pieces of paper with their name on them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So back then, what I found out is like back then, if Chuck called your name, that means you're somebody important. You're popular. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You the man or the woman.
Yep.
You know. So this went on, and then Rick. One day, what happened was Rick had came out of that. We would play that beat forever, man, just to keep him on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
One day, Rick took it upon himself to come out of that beat and go into a top 40. And man, you should have seen. Hey, my guy, you should have seen that floor do like this. Rio went up there, whispered in Rick's ear, and I didn't know what he had said at the time. I found out later, you know, that Rio told him, if you don't get back in that beat, I'll kick your ass. So Rick got really, he was pissed off with me, you know what I'm saying,
mm-hmm.
because of what Rio said. And he was looking at me with the evil eye, and he was playing the drums really hard, and it felt good.
Right.
So I would deliberately piss him off to make him play hard.
Hey, man, that's a great lesson right there. You gotta take the negative and turn it into something positive and figure out how to make it work for the greater good. Yeah, that's a great lesson.
Yeah. So I would say certain things. I was like, keep it right there, Rick. Keep it right there. Don't go nowhere. And he'd look at me, hit the cymbal.
Well, it's funny because all of that stuff is ubiquitous in go-go now. Like every lead rapper says that, you know what I mean? But it's just funny to hear the origin story of how it came.
Exactly.
From also he will play harder. That's hilarious.
So that following week, the Chuck number wouldn't come in till late. Basically, when Chuck would come in, it's time for them to get on the stage. You know, they come in with their little backpacks on, like they come in like as a little gang or a group or whatever. Mm-hmm. All of them come in at the same time, right? You know, and man, they came up in that joint. JB and Chuck and Tillery and Curtis. They was looking around and seeing the people dancing. And I was like, yeah, we got them now. We got them now. And after that show, Chuck went to Ted and say, I don't want them boys playing with me no more. They're trying to steal my music. So Chuck gave Ted an ultimatum, say, man, either they go or I go. So Ted, now by this time, Busta Loose was recorded. Chuck had got a deal, and you know he was getting ready to go on tour. Mm-hmm. So Ted was like, man, I'm sticking with Trouble because y'all get ready to roll out anyway.
Right.
When Chuck rolled out, we had the city on lock. Mm-hmm. It was now, because the brand had became our turf. Mm-hmm. So anybody that came on our turf had to open up for us. I don't care who it was, Razzins, EU, mm-hmm. You know, anybody that came to Club the Brand had to open up for Trouble back then.
Right.
You know. And I'm going to tell you something, man. Dude, EU came out that joint and they had Ben. You remember Ben, right?
I don't remember Ben. No, I was.
Oh my God! Well, let me tell you about Ben.
I'm only 43, Tony. I'm only 43.
Yeah.
I didn't come up until the 90s. You gotta forgive me a little bit.
Well, let me tell you about Ben.
So I was probably like 2 years old at the time or something. So.
All right, I got you. Ben was the first one to introduce the bass Ben cabinets.
Okay.
Those bass scoops.
Yep.
He was the first one to introduce the bass scoops cabinet to the go-go.
Okay.
Man, they had a sound that was incredible. Like they were just playing the wrong music.
We had Charles Stevenson on last week, so this is prior to them.
Mm-hmm. Before they got into the go-go thing.
Right.
Yeah. They was just starting to convert because we had a battle of the bands at Colorado Road Skating Ring. Mm-hmm. And Sugar Bear was the EU Experience Unlimited was on the card, but again, they wasn't playing go-go at the time. As a matter of fact, I can recall after the show, Sugar Bear came to me and said, "Man, y'all sound good, but you should stop talking so much and play your bass." And I told him, I said, "Man, look, I'm doing whatever I got to do to make the people dance."
Right.
You know.
Yep.
And about maybe a couple of months after that, we played again. It was Sugar Bear. It was Experience Unlimited, Trouble Funk, Peacemakers, and I think it was Raz and a whole bunch of groups at the Washington Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And I look up on stage and see Sugar Bear. "Oh, get it, y'all! I'll do it now." I say, "Okay, I see you got smart now."
Right. Right.
But yeah, man, that was the story of the Club to Burn. So
Okay.
after we transitioned into the go-go thing,
Mm-hmm.
it was still Trouble Band and Show.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Dyke and I,
When did the funk come in to the name?
yeah, okay. So we had recorded E-Flat Boogie,
Mm-hmm.
which was our very first recording, period. Our very first
Where did you record?
Sigma Sound.
Okay. And and this is something I got into Charles a little bit with. What was the thought process when you decided to record a song? Like, was it we want to be Earth, Wind, and Fire, or is it we just want something that is going to help us get more people to the club in DC?
No, Dyke and I, we always thought like, big, man. It's like Commodores. We grew up on Commodores, Cameo, and
Right.
we wanted to be like these groups.
Right.
Commodores, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and LTD,
Mm-hmm.
Barcades. We always thought that we belonged in that category.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons why our brand of go-go is so much different from everybody else's,
Mm-hmm.
because Trouble Funk is actually a funk group that can play go-go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
We're actually a funk group that plays the hell out of the go-go. And one of the reasons why we play it so well is because we tried to build our own lane. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And just do a brand of go-go music that's totally different from anybody else's. Now, I would grant you this. Back in the day, we had what you call the Big Four. And that was Chuck, Trouble, Rare Essence, EU, in that order.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? In that order. We all had our own distinct sound.
Right.
Unlike, no disrespect, unlike these days and times, it's really hard to tell one group from the other unless you got somebody like a Big G. You know what I'm saying? When he opened his mouth, that's Big G.
Right. Well, even when I was coming up in the 90s, you could tell just from the beat. Like, I could tell Backyard from Northeast Groovers from Junkyard. Nobody had to play a lick of melody or anything. I could just tell the difference between Smoke and Wink and Sauce, and everybody had their own. Now it's just like everybody's just playing the same old two-step.
Exactly, man. So everybody's playing the same top 40s. Unlike back then, it's like Northeast, even Northeast, the new generation. That's what I call them, the new generation of go-go. You can still hear the originality.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You can still hear the originality in those groups, man. And it was very important. And I think that's one of the things we gotten away from, which we'll touch back up on that a little later on during the interview. But I just wanted to throw that up real quick. But yeah, we recorded E-Flat Boogie. Now this story is interesting. I'll tell you how E-Flat Boogie came about. That was like something that I was inspired to write, and then Dyke and everybody else kind of like, they pretty much piggybacked off the foundation that I laid on that song. Mm-hmm. And we was like, when Chuck Brown had left, we was playing Busta Loose. We played Busta Loose. I mean, we played it just as good as Chuck played it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, we were closed with Bustin' Loose.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no, not closed, but we would take a break.
Okay.
And you know, with that joint. And when we was trying to learn Bustin' Loose, it's like I had a problem trying to figure out the key of the bass line.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I could not. It's like I just thought it was naturally. I thought it was in E,
Mm-hmm.
but it just didn't. It didn't feel right. It didn't sound right in E. And at the time, I had a 4-string, so E was the lowest note that I can get.
You couldn't get to E flat, right?
Right. And then one day, something just said, "Tune your bass line, tune your bass down," you know. And I tuned it down, and I, pretty much just figured it out how to transition into E flat, and that's how I got the right key of Bustin' Loose. I found out later that it was played in E flat.
So does that mean that if you tune your bass down to play Bustin' Loose, does that mean for the whole rest of the night you're playing everything a half step up?
Nope. I would tune after that song. I would tune it right back in E.
Okay.
And I did it so smooth, man, because I mean, I don't have perfect pitch, but it's like that A stays in my head.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That A stays in my head. So it's like you can get a pitchfork or something right now, and I'll be right there. I may be a little off, but doom, doom. That stayed in my head. Doom. That's an A right there. That's in my head. It did it. So yeah, I would tune it back up. But the significance of that note is where E Flat Boogie come in.
Okay.
I was inspired to write a song called E Flat Boogie because of that E flat.
Bustin' Loose, gotcha.
Bustin' Loose, inspired me to write that song. And ironically, man, Chuck told me this. And if he was here, he'd back me up. He say, man, that is a funky ass tune. He say, man, how you get that bass to sound like that?
Right.
When Chuck came back home, he played with us, where the band had broke up. His original band. When they came, when they came off tour, the band had broke up, so he had got a whole new band. And Chuck Brown, we played together at the old Howard Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And Chuck Brown came on before we did, because like I said, we was hot back then. We had the city on lock.
Right.
And Chuck Brown played E Flat Boogie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Each other's songs, right? Did you guys
he played
the same night? Did y'all switch songs?
Nah. Because man, Chuck Brown was like Chuck Brown was just larger than life to me, man, and I had so much respect for him.
Yeah.
You know, I was flattered. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I took it as a compliment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I saw it. Everybody else may have saw it a little different, but it was like I was like, man, he's playing our song. You know?
Right.
Unfortunately, the bass player didn't have it. He had a 5-string, so it just wasn't funky the way he played it.
I got you.
But yeah, Chuck hit that joint, man, and I was like, cool. Chuck played my joint, and I found Chuck and I later on, became great friends, man. Like he was not only my musical mentor as far as go-go concerned, but we turned out to be really great friends, man. To the end.
Let me ask you a question about your first recording experience, because so you said that you came up with the idea. Was that typically how the songwriting process went? And I'm only asking this because there's like go-go bands in these days and times don't really write songs that much. So I'm always interested in what the process was when go-go bands were writing songs. Like, how did you write them? Because I hear you talk about the band would argue about this and argue about that, and that seems like it's still going on to today. But how did you push past that to write these sonings? And
well, like I said before, Dyke and I, we always did original music. Right. So when I came to the rehearsal and played, I actually dreamt about it. I dreamt that bass line.
Yep.
I woke up. This is when I was living in the projects. I was still living in Southeast with my sisters and brothers. I woke up, man, early in the morning, and I made all my brothers and sisters get out of bed, come in my room. They were mad with me. I made all of them come in the room, and I said, I need y'all to do this right here. Go TROUBLE, Flat Boogie. They looked at me like I was crazy, man. I said, just do it. I was a bully back then.
What do you mean? No, I'm just
So I went to Rio. We had a show at the and this is all about this is all a part of the creative process. You know, I went to Rio and I told him I had this idea. And I was like, man, I got this thing I want to try. I would always run it by Rio. Because I got this thing I want to try. I think it might work, yeah. And I told him, I said, yeah, TROUBLE. I want to see if I can get the crowd to say that and blah, blah, blah. You know? And he's like, it ain't going to work because it's too long. And see, back then, man, I was one of them young, hard-headed cats. If you tell me something ain't going to work, it's like, well, I can't do it. I'm going to prove you wrong. That was my motivation back then.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny because Rio, I don't know if you know this, but Rio was one of my mentors. And he, when I first showed him some of the early Mambo Sauce stuff, he said, nah, that's not going to work because it's not mixed like go-go. It doesn't sound like go-go is supposed to sound and all that. And I was young and hard-headed and I didn't listen either. So it worked out well for both of us, I guess.
Right. So, I did it and the crowd loved it. And as a matter of fact, after the show, they was like chanting and stuff after the show. TROUBLE, gonna funk you up, you know. And they were trying to imitate my voice. Say what now? You know, they do that right now to this day. You know. And so Rio, I looked at Rio, I said, man, I thought you said it wasn't gonna work. You gave me that smile with the sunshades on. I guess I was wrong. Yeah. So we would play the groove, you know what I'm saying? Chet came up with the guitar part, you know. But pretty much the bass line was the joint, and it's like we would play that groove and we would build off it. And then Dyke came up with the bridge, you know. And then I started the beginning of the lyrics, you know, saying, I've got the time, now do you want the phone? A lot of people thought I was saying fuck, but it was like, do you want the phone? Real was like, man, you can't say that.
You can say it depending on if you were talking to a dude or if you were talking to a lady. I guess it could be different question each way.
Right, but basically, what he was saying is that the radio wouldn't play that if that was what I was saying.
Right.
Yeah. So I had to pronounce it. Now, my pronunciation wasn't all that great back then, you know. Still a little crazy depending on what we're talking about. But, yeah, I had to put emphasis on that. Do you want the phone? You know.
Right.
Yeah. Can you boogie down?
Right.
So,
I'm sorry.
Moving fast forward, man. Once we got the record structure, once we got the song structured like we did, and we tried it on the people, that was one of the things I always loved about DC. You get a chance to try your stuff and see how they respond to it.
Yep.
Yeah. And they responded to Eflat Boogie the same way they responded to Busta Loose when Chuck was playing it.
Okay.
And I basically used that same concept that Chuck used, you know? So we had did some research and Rio did some research and said, we want to take this in a really good studio. So he said, I want to find out where, you know, some of the people with big hit records, you know, is recording their stuff. Because we would do little recordings and little rinky-dink studios and these don't come out right.
Yep.
So again, we went to Sigma in Philly, Sigma Sound, and when we recorded it, the guy put me on the microphone and he said, the guy said, nah, this ain't gonna work, man. You got a unique voice. He said, I'm gonna have to bring out the Lou Ross mic for you. Mm. So he brought this big old microphone out and you had to plug it in and you had to wait for about 15 minutes for it to warm up and all this stuff, man. And I did my vocals on that joint after we laid the instrumental, and man, it turned out great.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. Was there a producer involved, or did you guys produce it yourself? Or
no, we produced it ourselves.
Okay.
We produced it ourselves. Basically, it was always me and Rio in on the mix.
Gotcha.
After the band laid their part, Rio would always use my ear along with him. Now,
right.
And man, we made some engineers crazy because Rio, neither one of us knew the correct terminology in terms of how many hertz and what dB, and Rio was just like, just turn the volume up some more, and the engineer was like, man, anything past this, you ain't gonna hear it, and blah blah blah.
Right.
And Rio was like, but you say, listen, check this out. You feel that? He say, you can't hear it, but you can feel it in the flow.
Right. Well, the reason I was asking about that is because you mentioned the mic, that the engineer was like, no, this mic isn't right for you. This mic is right for you. And my experience coming up, like, I didn't really get into like really recording in a real studio until later in life, and when I started doing the Mambo Sauce stuff and everything, and I didn't really realize how much of a difference that kind of stuff makes. When we recorded in Baltimore for all the Mambo Sauce album, like we would get there, the drummer would have to get there an hour ahead of time because he would take an hour. The exact right mics for this specific song.
Exactly.
Specific sound that you wanted. And I feel like a lot of the reason that Gogo has had so much a problem making records over time is that we try to take a whole bunch of shortcuts and you just
hook up and play
3-4 times and then you're out, and then you wonder why it's not a smash hit. When I had Eric, who is a drummer for Wale's band and UCB on, and he was talking about Wale and Lady Gaga that did a song together. They recorded the hook 40 times before they got the exact way that they wanted it. And I feel like a lot of and I understand it because it's expensive to record a band, and you don't want to spend all that money to be in there all this time. But at the same time, you got to put the effort into making.
You got to invest, man. You got to invest in yourself, your sound. You got to spend some time. Now, unfortunately, back then, like it was kind of unfortunate and fortunate at the same time, because back then we didn't have a lot of money. So the session was over, you know what I'm saying, pretty much when we ran out of money.
Right. I'm really good on that.
Yeah. So it just happened. So we got some magic out of those mixes that we didn't feel that was complete.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We was, I don't know, I guess you could say it was part of it was luck, part of it was just a blessing. But we stumbled up on a whole new sound because of the fact that we couldn't go any further.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But and like I said, all of this stuff ties in together, man. Going back to the funk, like when Eflat Boogie came out, man, and this song was like popping like Crisco, man, and we really didn't have the power the distribution power to get it out as fast as we needed it to get out before it died. You know what I'm saying?
How did you release it?
That's the good part. We went up to this guy named Max Kid office. Okay. He had a label called Owl and the Kid Records. Me and Rio went up there and told him, we started off on my father's label. My father had a label called Moneytown. He was a musician. He was a producer too back in the day.
Okay.
So my father had a label that he let us put it on called Moneytown. But when the record started making noise, what I did not know is that my father had a partner that was a part of that label. His partner was trying to sue us for using the label.
Oh, wow.
Know, yeah. So anyway, what we did, we went to Max Kid. Long story short, fast forward, we went to Max Kid and we told him what the deal was, blah blah blah, and we put that joint on. Max had a record player right there in his office.
Mm-hmm.
We put the record on, and Max, got that voice. Man, I'm gonna make this record right here. I'm gonna make this record right here big, and blah blah blah.
So just for context, at that point in time, what had Max like?
Max,
what was he doing at that time that made you go to him?
He was known as a big promoter. Period. He was promoting he was like, I guess, the East Coast region promoter for all kinds of different major labels.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had heard about him through somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And they was like, man, you need to go see Max Kid, blah, blah, blah. Max Kid we was the first go-go group.
Okay.
We was the first go-go group that he ever promoted.
So he was only promoting records of major label artists.
Yes. Yeah, major, right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And when we took that, and just for the record, like Eflat Boogie, I don't consider that like a go-go record. It's more like a R&B record with go-go ingredients. And
right.
the same thing for Bustin' Loose. It wasn't like the go-go.
Right.
So moving fast forward, Max did everything he said he was gonna do with that record. He broke the record, man. We made plenty of money off that joint, man, and it started off on a 45, and we had already did we had played that joint for about a good, I think we did like an 8-minute version. We wound up putting it on 12-inch.
Okay.
That's where the money came in right there. We was able to sell the 12-inch for a little bit more money.
So how long was the original version? What?
The 45 version was I think it was maybe 3-4 minutes on one side, and then the rest on the other side.
Oh, okay, I got you. So, yeah. but playing on the radio, they would just play the first side, right?
Right. Eventually, they started playing those. Well, but eventually, what they did, they edited and did their own version. They edited down, and did their own version, Gotcha. And right now, you can still hear the version that everybody play on the radio on HUR. That was the one we wind up going with.
Gotcha.
The short version, But in the discos, the clubs and all that stuff, they would always play the 12-inch version. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So moving fast forward, Max came up there with $50,000. He say, we going to Chuck Levin's. Y'all get all new equipment.
Very nice.
Man, we was like kids at the toy store. We got B3s, micro moves, mini moves, clavinets. I bought that Olympic bass because, like I said, Larry Graham and Stanley Clark was like my idols. And when I seen Stanley play that Olympic, I said, I got to get one.
Right.
I got to get one, man. So I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe I was the first in the go-go with an Olympic bass. And, back then, they were like the Rolls Royce of bass guitars.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, and it had a unique sound too, man. And I developed a style on there called percussion bass.
Okay.
Yeah. So something that happened with the B3 where we had lost the back of it, and you were seeing all the wires in the back of the B3. So Dyke and I, we went and found the board. We took measurements of it, and we found the board. We went to the hardware store and cut a board out that would fit up in there. We took the board, we painted it white, we got some glitter, some Elmer's glue, and a magic marker. And we wrote with the magic marker on the board after we painted it and it dried.
Mhm.
We wrote on there trouble real big, will in little writing, spunk real big, and you little writing.
Okay.
So we wrote that trouble will funk you, and then we traced it with some Elmer's glue, you know, and then and then we took some glitter and sprinkled it all over the board, and then dumped the excess off.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we put the board up there, and it said trouble will funk you. Off from a distance, you didn't see the will, you know, and the you.
Right.
So
Just trouble funk.
people just saw trouble funk, and that's what they started calling us, and that's what it sticks.
Gotcha. Just for anybody that doesn't know, that a B3 is the Hammond B3 organ.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that big church organ.
yeah. Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, which we got because we seen Curtis with the Soul Searchers had it, and we was like, if Curtis had that joint, and we got the move because of JB. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Only we got more of we got a newer move, you know.
Okay.
JB had the switchboards, man. He had that switchboard move, man.
Yeah, but Moog is a keyboard for anybody that doesn't know already. A legendary.
Yeah, it's a synthesizer. Yeah.
Synthesizer. Yep.
Yeah. My bad. Yeah.
No, I know some people don't know what we're talking about, so I just want to make sure.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you.
So E-flat boogie takes off. Then what happens?
Then Master say, man, y'all got to get back in the studio and do some more stuff, you know, because we need something to follow behind this. And we had plenty of money, so, you know, but we didn't have it, but Max had the money. He was controlling it. And we were just going in there and just every other week, man, we would lay something. So we was dropping like a 12-inch, like it seemed like every other week or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would do like an EP or whatever, like 4 tunes on the 12-inch.
Right.
You know, that's when we was coming up with stuff like roll with it, Latin funk, get out what you get out, and then we was working on this song that was called Trouble Funk Gonna Funk You Up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it started off as.
Okay.
So the song was like don't 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 don't. So it was called Trouble Funk Gonna Funk You Up, and I just do little stuff like everybody's talking about this and that, but Trouble Funk is where it's at, and there ain't no funk like Trouble Funk. All do it, y'all. Get it now. Everybody's talking about what they feel, but Trouble Funk is the real deal. 9 for wine, 10 for gin. Can we back it on up and do it again? See, Trouble Funk ain't gonna never stop. We're gonna keep on funk until we hit the top. We're gonna do it like we did it when we did it before. And when we finish that, we're gonna do it some more. Hey, band! And he goes, yeah, do you want to funk it on that now? Uh-huh. Come on, band. And then we go, Trouble Funk, don't funk you up. And there ain't no funk like Trouble Funk. Okay? That tune right there.
You need to know that all great musicians have to be able to make that song with their mouth. They have to
yeah.
or you're not a musician.
Exactly. If you can't say it, you can't play it.
Right.
So that tune went on later, and this is where we credit Rio. Rio was like, man, we got something with that tune, but it ain't structured right. Mm-hmm. We got, it ain't structured right. Mm-hmm. Now this get real juicy right here. So that tune right there, he's like, we need a great hook line for this, and we need some raps, because by then Sugar Hill came out with what's your name, and that was hot. So Rio always tried to stay on top of what was hot.
Right.
And he said, man, we need to put some raps to this, and we need a good hook line. Mm-hmm. So we was at rehearsal one day. Somebody bought a damn porn video in, and we was real talk. Real talk. Somebody bought a VHS video in, and I think, well, I ain't gonna call them names. I ain't gonna put them on out there like that. But anyway, we was looking for a good hook line, and Charlie say, "Man, that's the hook right there." And I was like, "Where?" He said, "Right there." So the damn video was laying on the console or somewhere, and the name of the video, I'm not gonna get graphic and tell you what was on there, but the name of the video was "Pump Me Up," and that's where the hook line came from. A porn video.
Porno movie. That is hilarious. That is the funniest shit I've ever heard. I had no idea. Real quick before I forget, you were rapping the original lyrics. Is that what was that the first time anybody said 10 for gin, 9 for wine in the song? Or had that happened?
Well, yeah, that was the first time somebody ever said it in the song. Yeah.
I mean, I know people say, but I mean, is it what that in the song, was that the first time?
Yeah, it's the first time somebody ever said it in the song. We actually didn't record it. We actually didn't we recorded, but we never put it out like that.
I got you.
Yeah, because before we can put it out, we had recorded in the studio and everything. But before we can put it out, Rio was like, "Nah, man, the structure is not right. You know what I'm saying? This tune could be really big, blah, blah, blah." So what we did, we went back to Sigma, re-recorded it. I played, we put some percussion breaks in between it. We speeded it up a little bit, because like I said, it started off real slow. Boom, 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 boom. We speeded it up some, put some percussion. Me and T-Bone, I played all the percussion in. T-Bone played a lot of the little and right. Me and T-Bone did all the overdubs on percussion. I played the timbales and all the timbales and all that stuff that pumped me up. No.
T-Bone was on here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still on or not, but he was on here earlier. He was watching. Yep.
Yeah. So I played all the that's me. I played all that stuff right there. Okay. You know. So me and T-Bone, we always dealt with the percussion most of the time in the band. And we actually wrote our raps right there in the studio.
Okay.
Yeah, we wrote the raps right there in the studio, man. You know? So Rick, I mean, to me, I think Rick had the best rap as far as comparing to the other rappers. I think Rick had that, you know, like the man with the super S on his kicker, he had that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, my rap got over. I think my rap got over so well because I had the voice. You know what I'm saying? Yep. You know, I wasn't really, you know, like Perry makes it gonna solve the case. I mean, I was just, you know, again, just mimicking some stuff that I've heard and just putting
out at the time. I mean, it was good.
Yeah. You know, so that tune came out, man, and right now to this day, it's like one of the most sampled tunes in hip hop history.
Yep. So let's. Yeah. So I want to. I mean, I don't want to go too far, but I want to sort of get into that. So just let people know. You know, it was just like 287 times or something like that. You guys have been sampled.
Yeah. Yes. And last time I checked, and we still being sampled.
Right. Yeah. Everybody from George Michael to George Clinton.
Oh my God! I mean, I had a list around here. I forgot the list. Yeah. But man, it's anywhere from George Michael, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, NWA, Beastie Boys, Teddy Riley and God. So many people. Public Enemy, KRS-One. Oh my goodness, I had a list, man. I had a list because it was like I want to be prepared in case you ask that question.
Anybody can look it up. There's a song called "Who Sampled" or "Who Is I forget, and you can look it up and you can see all of the people that sampled you. And I posted something on GoGoTix on Instagram the other day, which is a conversation between Questlove from the Roots and Rick Rubin, and they were talking about Questlove was telling Rick Rubin that he thought that Sardines was the best produced go-go song, and Rick Rubin corrected him and said, "Drop the bomb."
Yes, sir. Yeah,
but Drop the Bomb was the best. So, but he also, the conversation went into the recording process and the way that go-go past, late 80s had been recorded and produced, and that they felt like that was sort of the, I don't want to say failure, but that was the reason why go-go didn't go much further. And I just wanted to point out, as we were talking about the microphone thing earlier, but also the fact that you guys were driving to Philadelphia to record. And I'm not saying anything about Philadelphia being the place to record. I'm just saying that you were willing to drive 2 hours away to get the best sound.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, when almost saw us, we were recording in Baltimore, and the band started complaining, "Oh, I don't want to keep driving to Baltimore. It's 30 minutes away. What do you mean? Like you want to make the great music or not?" And so, how big of a problem do you think that production and even in the story that you're just telling about Rio, about him, sort of rearranging, the song, that how big, or to pump it up, how big of arranging, producing, the recording process, like how big of a deal is that? I mean, it seems like that's the part that's the thing, right?
It's a very important part of the process, man. Right. Structure. Here's the thing: like it or not, radio has a certain format,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And if you're going to be included in that format, it's got to fit.
Right.
And right now, to this day, I tell people, it's like go-go in its rawest form is great live.
Yep.
But right now, it may change, it may not. But right now, there's no place for raw go-go to fit in the format of traditional R&B music. You know what I'm saying? Right now, it's just. I mean, we actually. Straight Up Funk Go-Go Style was the very first live, period, hands down. It was the very first live go-go album ever recorded.
Yep.
We had a little bit more control over that because we couldn't afford to get a mobile to come out.
Gotcha.
So what we did, we had a bus. Trouble Funk, that's the other thing I loved about Trouble Funk. Well, a lot of groups was kind of self-contained back then. But Trouble Funk was very self-contained. We had our own bus. We reinvest. That's the one thing I give Rio. He would reinvest money into the band and try to be as self-contained as possible. We had our own bus. We had our own tractor trailer. We had our own big light show. Mm-hmm. We would pull that tractor trailer up at Cherry Skating Ring. And that was a show within itself because people would actually come out to watch them unload the equipment off of that big thing. So just getting back to the music, man, it's like the structure. That was one of the things that we learned through Max Kidd and Rio, structure, how the importance of structuring songs.
Right.
And like I said, coming from that old school of music heroes, you know what I'm saying, that we looked up to, like Cameo, Barcades, and all these type of cats. That kind of taught us a little bit about how to infuse what we learned, with the homegrown sound versus what we liked with, the mainstream sound.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, structure is very important, man. I can't stress that enough. And I think, again, that's one of the things that set us aside from a lot of bands to be able to structure, because otherwise the record companies look at us like that go-go is like, man, that's just one big long song. You know, you can't really tell one thing from the other.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So again, man, yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, man. The structure is everything. The song structure is everything, and you cannot. Again, I personally have not heard a hit record with the new style go-go congos out there yet, out front like it is.
Right.
I haven't heard a hit record, and
Right.
I don't think I will ever hear one. You know, because that's just not. That's not. It's just not. You know, it's just not part of the format.
If you don't have the context, I think it's because if you don't have the context of seeing it live and understanding how it works with your physiology and how you feel it in your chest when you see it live, if you don't have that context already and you're just hearing it, because when the first time I heard it, I didn't understand it. And if you're just hearing it for the first time, the repetitive percussion going throughout the entire song, the whole song, without anything else to attract your ear, it starts to wear your ear out if you're just a normal person that's never experienced it live. But then when you go see it live, it all makes sense. It all clicks because you have that context. But and
you got the visual.
Yeah, and I think that, and in addition to just the visual too, just what you feel, like the feeling, you know what I mean, in your chest.
Right.
And I think that people like go-go artists, we try to recreate what we do on the stage in the studio instead of the other way around, which is how the entire industry does it. And you know, we've sort of like conditioned ourselves to feel like we can, like, if you do it a certain, it comes back to the also spending enough time. Like if you just go in the studio and you play the song 3 times and you play it the way you played it on stage, yeah, it's gonna sound watered down. It's gonna sound cheesy. It's not gonna sound good. You're gonna have to spend some time and energy and effort. Every song that we recorded with Mambo Sauce, and I'm not saying Mambo Sauce is the greatest thing ever, but I think we did a fairly good job of.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. In my opinion, I think Welcome to DC is like one of the greatest productions in go-go history.
Oh,
that's my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Yeah, I think Welcome to DC, man, is like, I think it was underrated, and I believe if that song was picked up by a major label, it would have definitely went gold.
Well, thank you.
If not platinum.
I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. But using that,
I think it should be I personally think it should be the fucking anthem. You know what I'm saying? Of DC.
Okay. Maybe we'll have to try to make that happen.
Yeah, that's me. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. I'm calling it like I see it. You know.
I appreciate it, man.
It's a well done song, man.
We appreciate it. Thank you. I shouldn't say I didn't do it myself. But yeah, there was a lot of time that went into that, and there was a lot of, you know, pressing the engineer in the same way that you're talking about. Hey, turn the congos up. We got to put the congos up. It has to feel like go-go. It can't just be some little light pitter patter in the back.
Right.
Go-go is not auxiliary percussion like it is in every other genre of music. It's supposed to be in the forefront, but it can't be so much in the forefront that it's taking away from the actual structure of the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when it comes to go-go, man, I got to tell all of them, it's a bomber. The drummer got to be plugged in before the party begins. It's a sin, you know?
Well, so I want to go a little bit, maybe it's not too much further, but so Eflat Boogie did well. But clarify for me, was it regional or did that have national and international?
Yeah, it definitely went regional. It charted. I think it charted like, I think it charted something like on the Billboard around 40 something.
Okay.
With a bullet before it actually started, you know, tapering off. Yeah, it was hot, man. I mean, that tune took us everywhere.
But that was all like the reason I'm asking is because, for example, Welcome to DC charted on the hip hop and R&B charts, but it was most of that was from DC radio play. You know what I mean? And you know, a little bit north, a little bit further north, a little bit further south. But was E-flat Boogie, was that really like all over the country at the time? Or
yeah. Well, see, here's the deal. Mike's Kid took that record wherever he took, whatever he was promoting.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we was touring everywhere off that record, man. Texas, all up and down the Carolinas, you know, New Orleans, and you know, yeah, we was touring everywhere off that record, man. So, and then when Pump Me Up came out, you know, after that. Pump Me Up was a bigger song, but for some reason it was on Sugar Hill. But, you know, and it did like really, the whole album did really well. You know, the whole album did really well, but we didn't see no money from that.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me dig into that a little bit. Because the reason I was asking about whether it was
hold that thought. Hold on.
Sure.
My earpiece is about to go out. I had to plug it up.
Oh, okay. Got you. No problem. Well, the reason I asked about that is because I wanted to sort of get like when you felt like your big, what you felt like your big break was. And the reason I asked is because I had Wink from Junkyard on last week, and I had Charles Stevenson on as well. And one of my things that I've always been frustrated with go-go bands about is it seems like they're waiting for some magical A&R person to come from New York or LA or something and press a button and say you're successful. But what I found out from talking to those guys is that that's sort of what happened to them to a certain extent. And so that's maybe where that's coming from, because for example, with Junkyard, Wink was saying that they would play outside on the street on the corner across from Rumors nightclub, and one guy, I forget the guy's name, came down to see him every week and check him out. And then eventually he brought Rick Rubin down, and Rick Rubin was like, oh, you guys are great, and signed him to Def Jam. So for them, it was some random New York A&R dude that came out of nowhere. And for EU, it was getting hired by the 930 Club to play at Spike Lee's birthday party. And then Spike Lee took a liking to them. You know what I mean? But that's abnormal for the rest of the music industry. And so I wondered what your experience was how you got to the point where you're like, okay, this is our big break. And because, you know, it seems like I guess it was a somebody guy.
Yeah. I guess you could say our big break came. Actually, technically, our big break came when we hooked up with Max Kid, but we got an even bigger break when we signed to Sugar Hill Records.
Okay, and how did that come about?
Well, oh man, that's been so damn long. Well, I do know this right here. They contacted us.
Okay, that's a good position to be in. Yep.
Yeah. Joe Robinson contacted us, and Rio set up a meeting with him. Mm-hmm. Went down there and we signed. It wasn't the greatest deal in the world.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it was the worst deal in the world.
Right.
You know, because we was kids, man. Yeah, we didn't know nothing about how the business run, man. And you know, we trusted that Rio would, you know, steer us in the right direction, man. But you know, I guess Rio did the best he could at the time, but you know, we wound up signing a lot of our rights away, not knowing it back then. You know, Rio said sign, we signed.
Right.
You know, we got like about 2 more albums that was never released that Rio went down there and gave to Sugar Hill. And they didn't even ask for it. He just gave it to them. Stuff that we was working on in the studio. And right now to this day, it was stuff that was never released, including the album that a lot of people don't know this, but we did Junkyard's first album.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well, I
it was
remember
never released.
Wink was saying he got started because y'all used to live next to each other or across the street or around the corner or something, and he used to come
Yeah,
listen to you playing your bass.
yeah, yeah. But
Yep.
we took them in the studio. That's when they had nothing but buckets and buckets and pans and stuff, little canned good cans, you
Right.
know, and that shit sounded amazing.
I bet. I bet
That
it.
little Casio keyboard, man, it was amazing, man. And
I,
it really hurt my heart, man, that Rio had took that stuff and just gave it to Joe Robinson, and nothing became of it.
so he did it because I assume he did it because he thought they were going to do something with it, and
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, of course. But
they didn't.
hey, man, that's first things first. Let's get this. Let's get this first one out the way and get some money first.
Right.
Then
Right.
give it to him.
Right. Well, why do you think they didn't do anything with it?
Because we got into some legal litigation, a legal battle, and we wanted out of the contract, and they were supposed to had awarded us all of our masters back according to the ruling of the court.
Mm-hmm.
But the studio had mysteriously caught fire, and they said everything got burned up. Now, yeah. So, we never got any money out of it. We never got our masters back, and right now to this day, we're still trying to figure out a way to get control of our catalog back. Most of our catalog, man. So,
Wow.
yeah, that was kind of a bitter thing, man. Looking back on it, and like I said, I personally don't fault Rio. He did the best that he could at the time, but what he was working with,
Right.
And like I said, man, this guy was like one of the most. He was a hustler, man. This cat, there would be no Trouble Funk if it wasn't for Rio.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As simple as that. So, we definitely owe him that much. He invested a lot of money back into us. He made a lot of bad decisions, but again, we all do, along the way.
Yeah. There would be no Mambo Sauce if it wasn't for Rio either, because Rio is the one that suggested I try out for Northeast Groovers, which turned into me, one step led to another and led to another and led to another. So yeah.
Man, you know what? Now that I think about it, back then, I don't think there was a band that became somebody that didn't come through Rio. Rio has re-resurrected bands, and this dude, and it wasn't. And let's be clear about this, because I know I've been knowing Rio since I was 17 years old.
Right.
It ain't so much about how much he know musically. He's just this guy. He grinds. He grinds, man, and he got an ear. He's like, he don't settle for anything. Right. He don't really know what he wants, but he know what it is when he hear it.
Right. That's the same way I am. That's good to hear, because now I know I'm in good company, because I'm the same.
Yes, sir.
You say, I want it to sound like this, and this, but if I hear it, I know that's it, and if I don't hear it, I know that's not it. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So so I think that was his gift. You know what I'm saying? It's like when we get the joint right, say, okay, now we can go record it. And he always leaned on me to make sure that I got it right, because nobody really could understand his way of thinking or talking but me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So his motivation was, man, if you can get Dyke to do this and get so-and-so to do that, then I'll do this for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sugarhead and all that, I don't want to go too far into it, but you're on multiple labels. You're on Debt, which was Max Kid, and then you were on.
No, well, correction. Again, That record was our label. Max Kid was supposed to have been distributing it, and then there was a lot of things about we didn't like the way Max Kid was doing what he was doing because he was trying to make people think that he owned the label. So we kind of had some friction was there, and then Ted had gotten involved too on the management end. So by the end of this time, we was making money, and everybody was seeing the money but us. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was seeing the money but us. So when Max couldn't control that record, he flipped it
to Ted
Records.
Gotcha. I thought it was the way around. That's good to know. I thought Ted.
Nah. So basically, what happened was, we just took our hands off it, man, because Max had made a mess of it, and he wound up with that into it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because by this time, things had gotten so sour between us and Rio. We just thought it was best to separate. We thought it was best to separate because, again, by this token, by this time, it was like we had to make major decisions that didn't work out now, to our favor. So Rio and Ted was like, man, look, we're at the crossroad now where y'all got to decide y'all gonna do this full time because, we got to go on the road, this, that, and the other. So he was asking everybody to make some major decisions, man. When we were younger, we didn't have no whole bunch of responsibilities.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He was going to school and, whatever. But as we got older, we started having kids and taking on other responsibilities. And then you telling us we got to actually stop working and stop doing the things that we actually, got to survive on, because although we was making money, we wasn't seeing the money. Not the type of money where we can survive, but we was doing it for the love of it anyway.
Right.
So when it came to that point where everybody had to quit their jobs after been working for, 15, 20 years, and then to find out that things didn't work out on the road the way it was supposed to be, had happened.
Well, what happened with that? What happened with the things? What didn't happen on the road the way it was? I mean, let me back up a little bit, because the reason I was asking about the record label thing is because I wanted to know, because you've been on multiple record labels, Island, whatever.
Right.
What did and then I want to come back to the road thing, so don't let me forget that. But what worked with each record label and what didn't? I mean, you don't have to go through each single record label.
That's what we was getting at. It's like,
and that
Rio didn't want to deal with any more major labels. You know what I'm saying? It was like after Sugar Hill, they still had major labels calling, and we set up, and I think it was, oh my God, it was some major label. I cannot remember, but it wasn't Island, but it was like MCA or some record company. They actually called. We were sitting in the office having a meeting. They actually called. Called Rio on the phone, and Rio answered, and they was like, yeah, this is so-and-so, MCA, blah, blah. We want to sign Trouble and this, that, and other, Mm-hmm. And Rio said, pretty much, he said, fuck y'all. Y'all wasn't there when we was looking for you. We don't need you now. Quit. Man, we was like, everybody's jaws was like, no, he didn't just do that.
Why? I wonder why, because I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, that it seems to be a very, and I felt it all the time growing up too, and realized that I don't know that it makes that much sense if you really look at it from a logical standpoint. But we in DC or the DMV seem to have if you weren't with me before when I wasn't anything,
mm-hmm.
with me now. And is that a realistic viewpoint to have?
No.
Because why would they be with you? They don't know, not everybody sees the vision early on. So you gotta, I just feel like it's a counterproductive attitude to have.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up because I always felt like that was like Go-Go's biggest downfall, man. It's like we're so, so tunnel vision, man. It's like so tunnel vision. It's like it's got to be bigger than DC, man. It's like it's got to be bigger than DC. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm proud, to be a part of this. I'll never forget where I come from, man. But they too damn sensitive here in DC. It's like, man, if you leave for a good few months, they forget all about you exist. They call you sellout and all that kind of stuff, man. Come on, man. It's like, no, we're not selling out. We're going to there sharing this music. We're representing where we come from. Trying to put this music on the map. Right. And unfortunately, right now to this day, you got a lot of musicians and a lot of fans that feel that way.
Right.
Like you're supposed to keep the music right here. They ain't supposed to go nowhere else. And that's what happened with Rio. Rio could not take us any further, but he didn't want to let go.
Right.
So we had to actually have a meeting amongst ourselves, and we came to the conclusion where, hey man, look, this thing ain't working between us. So, okay, we got to defuse this thing where it'll be to everybody's advantage. So what we did, we invested a lot of money in that PA system. Mm-hmm. So Rio was like, okay, I can't do nothing with the name because y'all pretty much make the name what it is. And y'all can't do nothing with the PA system. So I'm going to let y'all have the name and I'll take the PA system. We was like, that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. At this time, at this point in time, and this is serious history for your ass that a lot of people don't know. Mm-hmm. At this point in time, Chuck Brown was cold as ice. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He was cold as ice because he went through some things after he came off the road. We all have our turns like a doorknob. Everybody gets a turn. Yep. And when Chuck found out that Trouble Funk had left Rio, Chuck went pew right away.
He did what now?
He went to Rio.
Oh, really?
And Rio managed him.
Oh, wow.
So for about a good year, everybody was trying to say, man, Chuck Brown got y'all sound now. Because Rio built that system around Trouble Funk. Right. So
still the system in go-go to this day.
Yeah. That's one of the most unique sound systems, man. But it was known as the Trouble Funk sound back then. Right. So people used to come to me and say, yeah, man, Chuck Brown got y'all sound now. So it wasn't about all that bass that Rio had that caved your chest in. Right. But the thing is, Chuck's sound wasn't really built for that, but it worked. His sound wasn't really built for that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We had a heavy sound. We had all those smooth bass sounds and the sub low drums and the kick drum and all that stuff. Right. That was able to accommodate that system. Right. Mm-hmm. So Chuck actually resurrected Chuck at that point, and then when they went in the studio, Rio pretty much did the same thing with Chuck that he did with us. Right. So Chuck, but by then he was able to get a mobile truck to come out. Live. So Chuck did Rio did the go-go swing on Chuck. Mm-hmm. I think it was at Crystal Skate. Mm-hmm. It was live at Crystal Skate. Yeah. And again, it was like go-go live all over again. Right. So, but yeah, man, get back to what you were saying. It's like, I really believe that was and still is a big part of why go-go hasn't really, made it to the point where I guess it's safe to say hip hop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Lack of good business representation and a lack of just creativity and support. Because you do have some bands out here that's being very creative, but radio stations ain't supporting us.
Right.
I done did 2 tunes, man. I done did 2 tunes in the past 3 years, 2 singles. One was Hump Day, and which I thought was a great song, great production, and the other one was What You Sippin', you know?
Yep, I remember.
And I thought they was pretty good, and I bankrolled that myself. I did the video and everything on Hump Day,
right?
And I could not get no support on it, man. It's like I couldn't get any support on it. No, nothing from the radio stations, you know.
Let me unpack a little bit, because there was a whole lot that you said right there that I think is very, very important. So the first thing I was trying to ask about the record labels to find out what did any of the record labels do anything right, and what was it if they did? Like,
okay,
yeah.
The thing that Sugar Hill did right was they really promoted us. You know what I'm saying? They promoted that album very well.
Gotcha.
The thing they didn't do right was give us our damn money.
Right. Right. Which is unfortunately a familiar story in every genre of music everywhere. And the good news is that, you know, the labels are less and less of a necessary thing these days. A lot of the stuff you can do yourself. So then the second thing was, you said the tour didn't work out the way that you thought it was going to work out. And if I understood the chronology correct, the timeline correct, was that guys had to quit their jobs in order to go on a tour, and then the tour didn't make the money that you thought it was supposed to make. Did I understand that?
Well, the tour was making money, but we wasn't getting the money. Man, they was like, we had like became like a full blown corporation, and we was getting paid by checks, and they were taking taxes out, but the money that they was paying us wasn't amounting to the money that we was making on our jobs and stuff. I say we as a whole. I worked a few jobs, but I worked enough of them to know that wasn't for me. So it was like, man, I got to make this work. I don't have no choice. Right. I got to find a way to make this work by any means necessary, because I ain't working for nobody. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there was a lot of rough times, man, but I made it. And I just thank God, man, that I've been able to sustain, this career to the point where I can survive, you know what I'm saying, and make a living at it. You know, it helps when you can do more than play live. I'll tell you that. You know,
yeah, definitely. But back to the live thing, real quick. I only want to hammer that for a second, because that is a really big problem. Like,
but they was taking taxes out, and they wasn't reporting the taxes. After taxes, man, we'll walk away. Some of us will walk away with less than $300 a week. You know what I'm saying? It was like some of the guys that was working was making more than that on their jobs. You know, so we got frustrated. A lot of us got frustrated. We was drained of our motivation, man. I mean, and keep in mind, I was young back then. A lot of us was young, man. I was so frustrated, man. I started hustling. You know what I'm saying? I started hustling. It's like, dude, I gotta survive, because I ain't going back home. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going back home, man. So I started hustling, man. It's like, until I could find another way, man. I was like, I did what I did,
Right.
And being a kid, man, coming from the projects, man, not a lot of education, you know what I'm saying? Man, I had to actually get a job, man, at 16 years old and help my mom, because my mom was like, she was handicapped, you know what I'm saying? She lost a leg when she was at a young age in a car accident, and me being the oldest, I had to become the man of the family, man. So I dropped out and got a job to help my mom.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we all have a story, bro. You know, we all have a story, and that's why I think it's so important that the story is told correctly. And we're getting to that a little later on, but yeah,
Yep. Yep. Well,
yeah,
I wanted to touch on those things mainly because I wanted to sort of bring in what the importance of a record label is,
yeah,
and obviously the record label was much more of an asset to have back in the day than it is now. Now you can do a lot of that stuff yourself. It's not easy,
right,
but it is possible. And then I also wanted to touch on the touring thing because obviously no tours are happening right now, but prior to COVID, most of the money in the music industry was happening from the live industry, which is the reverse of what it was when you guys were doing your thing back in the day. And so how is it, like, is it even possible? Like, I feel like a lot of the problem, a lot of the difficulty with go-go getting the sound outside is that the bands are so big that it costs so much money to put them on the road that you can't put them on the road, and because
well,
you can't afford it.
but here's the deal, man. I was debating with you about really wanting to get into this or not. But man, you know, this I think it's important that people need to know the truth about at least trouble funk situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The truth of the matter is, man, we lost a lot of people on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We actually lost a lot of people. I mean, I had a lot of deaths on the road.
Oh wow.
And that took a lot out of us, man. You know, the very first accident we had was with Lonnie. It was Lonnie, Snakeface, and Little Lonnie and Hicks. Man, that was a hell of a team. As a matter of fact, that was the crew that went on tour with Chuck.
Oh really?
Yeah, these cats was real musicians.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, man, they was just so professional. I didn't have to touch my bass. When I come on there, my bass was on. When I come on the stage, my bass was already tuned up. It was set, the tone, everything the way I wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Lonnie was a bass player. Snakeface was a drummer. Hicks, he played a little bit of everything, you know. Lil Lonnie was the light man.
Mm-hmm.
We did a show in I think it was Cambridge, Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Eastern Shore, yep.
Yeah, Eastern Shore, yeah. And I think we played. It was Roy. We played with Roy Ayers that night. It was a college.
UMES.
Yeah,
University of Eastern Shore.
It was Delaware. Yeah, this thing was Delaware. Yeah.
Okay, Delaware's a little bit north of there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Delaware. I'm sorry. So we had got the guys rooms. We had got them hotel rooms
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, we knew they was tired and we didn't want them to drive. Well, Lonnie, him and his girl had a little argument just before we left out. So I guess he wanted to get back home so he could patch things up. And long story short, man, you know, we all had, you know, got back home, and you know, we had a bus. You know, we got back home, everybody got back to their cars, went home, and then I got the phone call that Lonnie fell asleep behind the wheel. So it was 2 trucks at the time, because I think the rig, the guy that we had pulling the trailer, I think his rig had broke down, so we had to rent 2 riders. Mm-hmm. So Lonnie drove one, and I think Snakeface drove the other one. And Lonnie was ahead, Snakeface was behind. And this is the story I got. Lonnie fell asleep, and Hicks was in the middle, and little Lonnie was on the end. Lonnie fell asleep behind the wheel and drifted off, and Snake was blowing the horn, trying to get him away, and he drifted off into the woods, and crashed into the trees, and Lonnie got messed up really bad, man, and little Lonnie got messed up, and a piece of the what do you call it, the steel or whatever from the truck had peeled out and pretty much killed Hicks in the middle instantly. We had a show. We had a show the next day, and Rio insisted that we played, and we played, man. You know, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life.
Yeah.
Rio insisted that we played, man, and you know, we played, and then we had another accident, Cross Creek, where we lost another guy, in a head-on collision, and Rio insisted that we played that time. We couldn't do it. We didn't do it. You know, we didn't do it. So we were just all mentally fucked up, man. You know.
Yeah.
And that's when we came to the conclusion where you know, it's like, man, this dude is not human, man. I mean, I love Rio to death. I love him like a big brother, father figure. You know what I'm saying? And we still talk on and off to this day. You know what I'm saying? But at that point, man, we just realized we couldn't do that type of business. We couldn't do it. It was just too cold.
Right.
You know? It was just too cold, man, you know. And for he say, well, y'all didn't really give a fuck about him no way, and you know, so might as well play. And it's like,
dang.
You know, so that right there took a lot out of us, man, and we never really got back, you know, to that point, because so many things changed since then anyway, you know. So then we got Island Records came in the picture. Max Kid, you know, hooked up with Island Records, and the thing that Island Records did so great was they gave us tour support.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, they gave us tour support. The thing that they didn't do so great was they tried to change our sound. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know how to market the sound. They didn't know what to do with the sound. So they wanted to change it, and some of the guys was good with that. I actually broke the band up for a while. This is after we left Rio. So
right.
it actually broke the band up for a while. We had 2 Trouble Funks going around for a minute.
Oh, wow.
Because I wasn't having it. You know, I got this old saying, man, before I sell out, I get the hell out. You know, and it's like, I love Boosie, man, but Boosie don't know nothing about this, man. He know a little bit about it now. You know what I'm saying? But
how was
back then,
involved, or what they were trying to? Was he producing or what?
Yeah, they brought Boosie in to produce most of the album, and Boosie basically just came in there with a computer, hooked it up, and pushed the button. You know, and we wind up wanting us to put vocals on that shit. You know, so I refused to go in. I refused to go in the studio with that.
Right.
You know,
right.
So I guess Allen was like, okay, well, y'all got to figure out what y'all gonna do with Big Tony, because he becoming a problem. So basically, they started freezing me out and started calling me for the sessions. I did 3 tunes on there, and they tried to water them down. They tried to water those tunes down. I did a tune called Hey T-Bone on the album. And I did, and T-Bone pretty much wrote his own rap for that, you know. But I wrote the music, and I did a tune called Hey T-Bone. I did another tune called Sexy, and then I did a tune called I Like It. You know, and they pretty much tried to water all those songs down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the first time I ever used a drum machine on Hey T-Bone, and the reason why I used the drum machine is because I started learning more about the importance of staying on the grid, being on the grid. You know,
Yep. On click.
and yeah, so I use the drummer to make sure. I mean, I use the drum machine to make sure I stay, you know, on a consistent tempo, and then I was going to bring the drummer in to play on top of that.
Right.
But you know, before I could even do that, man, they had took it and mixed it and used the drum, used the drums that I had, the drum machine, and it was a cheap little a Roland 707.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was a beast with that joint, but yeah, it wasn't no real funk there.
Right. Right.
You know.
So what in your opinion what waters down go-go? Like, what is the definition of watering it down?
Well, I can give you the pretty much the definition that the industry, the go-go industry, consider watering it down. It's pretty much commercializing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Which is not a bad thing. And you know what I'm saying? I don't see it as a bad thing. Just like when Jill Scott came out
Yep.
with that record, oh man, they criticized that record so bad. Man, that ain't real go-go and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And you know, yeah, how's she gonna come up there and do it? But here's the deal. When nobody trying to get real go-go because they were smart enough to realize, everybody's smart enough to realize that they ain't gonna play that on the radio.
Right.
Everybody's smart enough to realize that but us. So they're taking pieces and bits of our go-go hits, local go-go hits, and making national money.
Yep.
National money. And it's like, how are we going to sit there and let them beat us at our own game like that? You know what I'm saying? You had Rich Harris, which is from here, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he used to play in the go-go band. Yep.
Right. Rich Harris, man, he made a killing on go-go.
Yep.
A lot of people don't even realize this, man, but if you go back and listen to Kelly Rowland's very first hit record, that's Trouble Funk. Let's Get Small beat in the background.
Not surprised.
Yeah, that's Trouble Funk's Let's Get Small beat. I forgot the name of the record, but I got the whole record sitting right up on my wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I got more gold and platinum records from samples than I do from my old recording.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But hey, I'll take it. It's
right.
Still our music.
I'm not complaining. Not complaining, right?
No, I ain't complaining, man. So the thing is, again, you know, everybody was smart enough to Wale. I mean, man, he took the, you know, the thing that Back did, man, and, you know, which was actually a concept from another song anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, but the way he used it, man, is like, it was brilliant. You know, it was real brilliant, man. Same thing with Rare Essence. You know, that overnight scenario.
Jay-Z.
Shit, Jay-Z took that joint to a whole nother level, man. So the thing is that if you're going to get outside of DC, it's necessary to commercialize your music to a certain extent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think it's smart what the major artists are doing with the go-go. As a matter of fact, I'm doing it myself with the new album. I'm in the studio where I had a little accident, so I had to. We're like 7 tunes in. Then I had a little accident that set me back for a few months. But I'm doing well. I'll be back in about a month or so. You know. But we was in the studio as you know, as we speak. Man, working on the album Trouble Funk: The Rebirth.
Okay.
Now here's another thing that's important that a lot of people that call themselves producers and writers in the go-go industry need to know. Sometimes the whole band don't cut it. It's important to understand.
Yep.
Sometimes there's live music and then there's production, studio production.
Mm-hmm.
You You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the whole band is not necessary.
Indeed.
Sometimes all the percussion is not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to know these things.
Because
Man,
the thing that I think the rest of the industry has figured out that we don't is that we put the live experience first, where the recording industry puts the song first, and it doesn't,
right.
and it doesn't matter. Like, and the other thing I notice is we'll have 5 vocalists, and every single one of them has to have a verse. So then the song is 7 minutes long, and it's like, oh well, I can't tell such and such that he can't be on the song because then he's going to get mad because it's good, And it's like you don't hear 7 people on a song on the radio. Like, I mean, I don't want to keep radio because radio is also a dying medium. You know what I mean? Like streaming is really where it is now, anyway. But still, like commercial music, you don't. It's first of all, it's not 7 minutes long, and you don't. Every single person in the band doesn't have to be on every single song all the time. It's about what's best for that particular song.
But guess what? A lot of them, they get in their feelings if they're not, and that's the problem. It's like trying to please everybody, then you wind up making that ultimate sacrifice. Missing your calling or your turn or whatever, your time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like one of the hardest things I ever had to do, man, is walk away from the original Trouble Funk family. But it had gotten to the point where I knew if I did not do that, I would not grow anymore.
Right.
So one of the hardest things I had to do, man, because these cats have been, this music thing ain't for everybody.
Right.
Everybody ain't built like that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So a lot of the cats, man, had just lost their compassion for it and lost their interest, and you know what I'm saying? They just didn't want to put in that work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
With me, it's like, dude, this failure is not an option with me. I don't know a whole lot more. I used to work construction. I used to be a parking attendant. I was a damn maintenance man. I ain't like that, man. I was like, dude, I'm so much better at calling the shots.
Right.
It's like, man, I'll work with you, but I ain't working for you. I work with you. You know? Well,
real quick, because I think we sort of skipped over this. I want to talk
about.
I'm sorry. No, it's fine. So in some of the tour, I remember you said that Red Hot Chili Peppers used to open up for you. Obviously, you built.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about some of your experience working with other artists in other genres and what you learned from working with them, or they learned from working with you.
Well, man, one of the things I learned about just playing with other different styles of music is that just because it's different don't mean that they're not going to like your music.
Right.
It's like when we first played with, what was this? It was this punk rock group, man.
Minor Threat.
Minor Threat. Oh my God. When we first played with them, man, it was like they was headliners. They was headlining their first show.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, man, what the hell are we gonna do after this?
Right.
Yeah. It's like, how can our music ain't nothing like this right here.
Right.
But we came on, man, and they loved it. It's a totally different groove, a totally different vibe, a totally different reaction.
Yep.
They went from jumping off the stage, banging into each other, to just dancing, throwing their hands up and shit. And,
right.
And this is predominantly white folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I was blown, man. So that same experience we had with Fishbone, Red Hot Chili Peppers, these are guys that was opening up for us.
Right.
Beastie Boys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? These guys was opening up for Trouble Funk. And these guys went on to be really, really big Like Red Hot Chili Peppers right now to this day is still Big Trouble Funk fans.
Yep.
So is Fishbone. You know, I talk to those guys every now and then. We stay in touch.
Oh, do you?
You know, yeah. I talked to Walt and Norbert, Norbert, the bass player. You know, Fish. You know, I talked to them guys. We supposed to be doing something. You know, I guess when this stuff clear up, but we had talked about doing some things on the new album. You know, which is that's going to be very interesting because we got some really big surprise names that's going to be on the new album. So
that's good.
But yeah, man, we played with all these guys, man, and the experience. The thing that I learned is that I don't care where you at and who you play with. If you got good music, people is gonna love it.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel proud to say this, Malachi. And when I say this, I'm not pumping Trouble Funk up or anything. That's not a place that we ever played, and we didn't play damn near everywhere all around the world. That wasn't a venue that we did not rock.
Right.
There were some hard ones to work, but in the end, I got them. We got them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell you, one of the hardest venues we played, it was in San Francisco. It was Fishbone and a couple of other groups I don't remember, funk rock groups or whatever you call them. And we had a revolving stage. And
circular one.
It was kind of like on their turf. So they played first. And they played no. We played. No, they played first, and then we came on, I think, third or something like that. But my point is this right here: before we hit a note, somebody threw something on stage. Yeah, it was one of them type of crowds. Wow. I got on the mic. I said, "Hey, we ain't gonna have none of that shit tonight. Now y'all ready to party or what?" So when they sensed that, hey, okay, this big motherfucker right here ain't playing. So
well, let me ask you: when you were playing with these bands, or even just when you just overall, whenever you played outside of DC, what is the ethnic makeup of the crowd? Is it mostly black people or is
it? No. See, that's another thing, man, that I'm glad it's a great question. Outside of DC, well, we got a big white following here in DC. Right. But outside of DC, man, but our biggest following is white.
Well, I wanted to say that because I think a couple of people have misconstrued a statement that I made, which is that I feel like the audience for traditional, authentic go-go outside of DC is white, and I'm not, and I think people like mix that up with me trying to say I want to make go-go for white people. That's not what I'm saying at all.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that traditionally over time that black people outside of DC have not really messed with go-go like that as much as white people have. That's all.
It's sad but true. It's sad but true. And I'm here to tell you myself. I found from my experience, white folks are the most, when it comes to music, white folks are the most loyal fucking fans.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If they like you, they with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. You know, shit, man. Hey, with here in DC, whoever's hot, that's where they're going. And I ain't mad about that.
Right, but that reminds me too, because I have a theory, and you could prove me wrong on this theory, because there's the legend, and you alluded to it earlier, that that people talk about it with EU, people talk about it with you guys, and you mentioned about it with Chuck Brown earlier too. That when a go-go band goes on tour and then comes back, they lose their fan base. My question is that really because you went on tour and came back, or is that just the natural cycle of every band in DC is hot for a time and cold for a time, and then hot again, and then cold again, and hot. Like, is it really because you went on tour, or is it just?
Well, it's definitely that's a factor. I'm not saying that's the only reason why, but that's definitely a factor. A lot of it is when you go in there and you go for a while, then the thing about go-go, man, is the styles are constantly changing and things is constantly changing. So a lot of stuff you may miss while you're gone. While you're gone, you know. But the part that I had a problem with is that when they start, I think that's unfair when you go on tour trying to represent your city and your music, and then they accuse you of being a sellout because you left to try to do better for yourself.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's fair.
All of go-go, like that's
Yeah.
You
know, and sadly, you still got some musicians. I mean, some very influential musicians that still feel that way. That's sad, man.
Yep.
You know, and I'd be damned if I'm going to try to go out my way pleasing you and starve myself and say, oh man, you know, hey, Big Tony, man, shit, you know, he's true to the game. He ain't never left. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? I got to eat. My family got to eat. I got to pay bills. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yep. I got to pay bills, man. So, you know, hey, you know, and if I didn't do that right now, I would be dead. I mean, as far as musically, I would be dead. I never depended on, after we left Rio, I never depended on DC to pay my bills.
Right.
Not no one, you know what I'm saying? Because I knew Trouble Funk was too big for that. And the promoters out here, they ain't trying to pay no real money.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and with I'm at the age now, man, I just turned 60 years old. And even before I turned 60, man, it's like, you know, I got a lot of wear and tear, man. I didn't perform all over the world, and I didn't have some things happen. You know, I got health conditions I got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? I ain't claiming none of this, but I'm saying it's the reality of the situation. So I can't work hard. I got to work smart.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? If I allowed myself to depend on performing here every week, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? My money comes from music that I again, like you said, you don't need a record company now. I upload my own music on, you know, digital download, and I'm getting paid. My music is selling while I'm sleeping.
Yep.
You know, I have other ways. I got partners in different parts of, you know, Carolinas and all over the place. I do jingles. I produce jingles. I do gospel music. I you know what I'm saying? And, you know, that's how I make my money. We just finished doing the new theme song for ESPN. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So these type of things here, man, is like a lot of groups, man, sadly, is feeling this COVID thing because they depend on the fact that they had to perform every week.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? To make that money.
Yep.
Dude, I'm not one of them. Thank God. And most of my band, they work, so they not hurt no way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Most of my band, this is just like supplement income for them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was pretty much able to conveniently book around, and every now and then, like if we had something come up in London or whatever, for about a week or whatever, it's like I'll give them enough notice where they can put in leave. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or we had to go away for a few days, like more than a weekend. You know, those shows will be booked like months ahead where they can put in the proper leave so it won't affect their job.
Yep.
But my thing was that, and just like even like when me and you was talking, man, about, you know, you was trying to get us on tour, which I really appreciate that. But these cats, man, in my band, a lot of them ain't built like that. Right. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them ain't built like that. So I knew where you was coming from. Right. And this is what I do for a living. So, you know, I know all about making that sacrifice to get out there to reinvent yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm only one person. I can't go out there by myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But we can put you on tour. You can take the Rolling 707, and you can just do.
But I'm working on something, man. I'm working on something after this album, man, because like I said, this is all I do. So I want to be on the road. You know what I'm saying? And there got to come a time and place where you got to make a decision. Do you want to go to that next level, or do you want to just be happy with where you'll be surprised of how many musicians here that's just comfortable with where they're at. It's like they have limitations on how successful they want to be.
Right. Yeah.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's, I mean, I don't know.
Hey man, look, I know, Malachi, I'm all over the place, man. But I got a lot of shit to say. So pull me back. Feel free to pull me back in.
No, it's not even that. It's just in my mind is going in 50 million different directions about.
Right.
That's fine. So I just have one more sort of trouble funk question before we get into what I know you want to get into. And so my question is, what would you say is the highlight of your career with Trouble Funk? Like what was the greatest thing that happened?
Well, man, it would be real difficult to say one. So can I give you at least two?
Sure. Shoot.
Well, the first one was the first time we played at the Capitol Center.
Okay.
My mom's, bless her heart, may she rest in peace. That was like one of the most proudest moments in my life. It's like my mom's being able to see me on that stage at the Capitol Center. And I actually got a chance to see her, because they gave us some great seats by the stage,
right?
And she was able to tell me how proud she was, of me. Mm-hmm. And that right there was like, okay, I made it. Believe it or not, the second most spectacular moment to me is when we got the opportunity to perform with Dave Grohl at the Kennedy Center.
Oh yeah, did Jimi Hendrix Crosstown Traffic, right?
Yeah, man, I think that was a great opportunity. That was a historical moment, and I'll tell you the reason why, because I had just gotten out the hospital for my transplant 3 weeks prior to that. Mm-hmm. Dude, if you look very carefully at that, and you can go and pull it up anytime. But those of y'all that never seen it before, you can go on demand and see it anytime you want. Comcast, what's the Comcast, Infinity, or what's the other one? Yeah, but yeah, just whatever you got on demand. You can pull it up. But the thing that made that moment so proud for me is the fact that we was in company of so many great people. Mm-hmm. Oprah Winfrey. What's his name? The dude. Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
Patti LaBelle. Just so many major actors. As a matter of fact, I got the opportunity to rap with what's his name? The actor from here.
Dave Chappelle.
No, not Dave Chappelle. Yeah, I rap with him too. Like he's funny as hell, man. I caught him come out the bathroom after we did our set. Big Tony, I'll tell that shit up. Samuel L. Jackson. I got a chance to take a flick with him. Got a chance to, interact with so many major stars. Fantasia.
She loved
got a chance. Yeah, she loved Go-Go. She loved Go-Go, man. Stevie Wonder. There was just so many people there, man, that to be a part of that, man, it felt really great. And the thing that really made it like the icing on the cake, I'm proud to say that Trouble Funk is the first and only go-go band, to my knowledge, to perform for the first black president of the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a big deal to me. A lot of people try to downplay that. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, yeah, a lot of people try to downplay that, man, here at DC. But that's history that can't be changed. Like it or not, you was chosen to do that. And, you know, I tried to represent to the fullest. Although the selection of music, if I had my way, it would have been different. But, you know, hey, Dave Grohl called me and said, man, how would y'all like to do, you know, the Kennedy Center, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you kidding? He's like, fuck nah. So I was like, cool, I'm with it, you know? And he was like, man, we're going to take this tune right here, and I need you to arrange your go-go style.
Right.
You know? So I took it and arranged the go-go style. You know?
For those that are watching that may not know, we're literally talking about probably one of the biggest rock stars in the world right now, Dave Grohl, who was the drummer of Nirvana and originally the drummer for Scream, who used to tour with you guys, and then the drummer for Nirvana, and then the singer and guitar player from Foo Fighters, and
which is another artist that used to open up for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I saw him when you invited me to the show that you guys played out here with them for the Cal Jam. I was standing side of the stage, and I was about 10 feet away from Dave Grohl, and he literally was fanboying out, like, you know, and it was just, I mean, no, you know, y'all were cranking, but to me, that's normal because I'm from home and I'm cranking. So I'm just like, okay. And he's like, man, look how fucking, and he's like talking to some girl, like, awesome. And I'm like, yeah, man, crazy to me, you know what I mean? But
yeah, and to me, it really wasn't my best shows because I had to trade some people out at the last minute. You know, they got the tripping.
Y'all were cranking though. Y'all were definitely cranking. Yeah. So what do you think? So just the last thing, like, what do you think that leading into the documentary thing? What do you think? What happened? If you could put your finger on why? So you got hip hop and go-go rising up at the same time, and then hip hop goes here and go-go sort of stays the same, and then eventually starts to fall off in terms of the national and international scene. Obviously, I'm not talking about locally. You know, go-go's still going, but on a consistent basis, what do you think happened? What did we miss? What can we fix?
Well, you know, I'll put it to you like this, man. I believe that if go-go was born in New York, things would be different.
Right.
I don't know, just like the resources and the mindset and the whole business thing, you know, is like, I believe that go-go would have been just as big. Mm-hmm. I also believe if hip hop was born here, you know what I'm saying, in DC, they would have the same problem we have.
So you think that's so? I'm asking about the resources first because I talked to Charles Stevenson about this last week, and he said the same thing. He felt like there's not an infrastructure like there is in Nashville or New York or LA. But my argument to that, which is not an argument, it's just a point, that, you know, the Jacksons were from Gary, Indiana, like Ohio players were from Dayton, Ohio. Like they didn't let the place where they were from sort of constrict what they were able to do. But I think the second part of what you're saying is
you can say the same thing about DC. You got a lot of people from here that made it, but you're talking go-go now.
Right. No, that's that's what I'm saying. You're saying the exact same thing that I'm saying. My thing is that it's a mindset thing that's attached to go-go specifically, because you got Wale, you got Shy Glizzy, you got, you know, like a million artists that are from DC that are killing it. Dave Chappelle, whoever, Martin, you know, whoever, and other mediums. And
Yeah.
is it about GoGo and the mindset of GoGo that is keeping us? Is it like what you were talking about earlier, where everybody's worried about being a sellout, or what is it?
Well, I think first and foremost, and the most importantly, it's a lack of good business representation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you find somebody that really knows the business, you know what I'm saying? They're only going to use it to their advantage. You know what I'm saying? Which means you get fucked in the process.
The flip side of that is if you find somebody that really knows the business, what my experience has been, I know enough about the business to know that I still don't know shit because shit changes every day. But
Right.
I know a fair amount. I've been in lots of different aspects of the business, not just live. That's even though that's where I live now. But my frequent thing is that when I talk to people in DC, they don't want to listen because they think they already know it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it's no one thing, man. It's a lot of that. I agree with you. It's a lot of that because I've tried to reach out. You know what I'm saying? And then this is stuff that people don't know about. It's like I tried to reach out to some of the younger bands coming up back in the day, and it's like some of these youngins, man, is just so disrespectful, man. It's like I be trying to share my knowledge with them. It's like, dude, you on to something, man, but you know, you some things never change. You gotta learn more about structure. You gotta learn, and then you're like, man, y'all had y'all time, man. Y'all old heads, y'all had y'all time, man. It's our time now. We do things differently, but it's like, son, some things never change.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. Okay, styles are meant to be changed, man. But come on, man, if you got an identity, if you have an identity, then you just have to stick to your identity and learn how to reinvent yourself.
Right. Right.
Because you know, your identity is who you are.
Right.
Chuck never changed his identity. He changed his style. Right. He was one of the best that ever did it.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
Again, I try to take my hats off to these guys, man. JYB.
Great example. Yep.
These dudes stuck to their game plan.
Yep.
They stuck to their game plan and they still strong. Right? Yep. They going strong, 40 years strong, man.
Yep. Yep. And they still the same now as they did 20 years ago.
Yeah. So, man, you ain't got no choice but to respect them cats. Right. And I still think that they're underrated.
100%.
Yeah, I think they're underrated, man. And people is just starting to acknowledge, you know what I'm saying? But they didn't let that discourage them. And I got to take my hat off to Mo Shorter, man, which is one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest managers around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, Mo Shorter, man, he's been a great manager, a great father figure to those cats. Yep. He's, in my eyes, he's a true leader.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah.
100%. Hopefully we'll get our schedules together and he'll come on the show pretty soon. Okay, yeah. So we got to get to the good stuff now. So
yeah, man, because I could talk all night to you about this, man. But yeah.
I want to make sure we give everybody, give everybody what they need because we have so many technical difficulties.
Yes, sir.
And thank everybody for being so patient with that earlier. I really appreciate it. So, what did you think of the documentary? And I know that you and I talked offline, and that you mentioned that you had done even a longer interview than what we've done today with them. And obviously, it's television and it happens, and they cut a lot of stuff, and they can't fit it all in. But what were your overall thoughts, and what were you not able to? What didn't make the cut that you wanted to be in there?
Okay. Well. First, let me say this, Malachi. I'm not trying to bash nobody or nothing like that in no kind of way. I think for the time that they had to do it, they did a fair job. Mm-hmm. But it was nowhere near as good as it could have been.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I did 3 hours of an interview by myself. Out of that 3 hours, I mean, I told the whole story. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can't do that because they weren't there. They can only tell what they heard or what they read.
Right.
And what you hear and what you read ain't always what it is. You know what I'm saying? I was there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I gave them about 3 hours, man. And it was still more to tell. But they was happy with what they got. They was like, man, that was great. This, that, and the other. And man, you tell great stories. It's like, all you gotta do is tell the truth. You know, you don't have to embellish it. If it's, you know, something that's, you know, worth hearing about, you know? So that's the first thing. I just felt like out of the 3 hours, man, all I get is 5 or 6 minutes out of 3 hours.
I don't even think it was 5 or 6 minutes. It seemed like you were on there for like 2 minutes, if that. Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, maybe you're right. You know, maybe you're right. But just in and out throughout the show, I just give it benefit of the doubt. That's, you know, you know, I would hate to even think it was less, but
right. But if I remember wrong, I only got a chance to watch it once, but yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like you're gonna have people that if you got somebody telling my story, I should know them. You got people that my kids' age up there talking about stuff that I know it was impossible for them to be there because my kids wasn't even there.
You gotta,
you know, try to tell this story.
You gotta tell me because I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying. They had a young, and I don't even know her name, but it was a young lady there that had a fro. I think she told the bulk of the story.
Natalie.
Is that her name? Yeah. It's like, it's the first time I'm sorry, and maybe I'm supposed to know her, but it's the first time I ever heard about her when I seen that documentary.
Right.
And the one thing I know for a fact is she wasn't there.
Right.
No disrespect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, a lot of things she said was very inaccurate. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was very, very, very inaccurate, man. Again, I wanted so bad to go on Facebook, man, and just, you know, I was like, nah, man, it is what it is. I'm not, you know, so many people was disappointed, and some people didn't have a right to be disappointed because, you know what I'm saying? If you wasn't there or a part of the history, why should you know what I'm saying? Why should you be disappointed?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was like a lot of the little bands felt like, well, this person should have been mentioned, and, you know, what about the new generation? It's like, you know, and it's cool if, you know what I'm saying, if you're going to do it the right way. It's cool to mention the new generation, but one of the first mistakes I felt was made is that they kind of like started in the middle to me. It was more like a popularity thing than anything else. They was more focused on the groups that's hot right now to this day.
Right.
It's like, that's not how you tell the true history of a genre.
Right.
You got to start from the beginning. Everybody does it but us.
Right.
You got to pay homage to the beginning.
Right.
You got to know where the hell you come from to know where you're going. You know what I'm saying? So that was the first problem I had with it. The second thing is, I knew it's like, it's impossible. With all of these cats that got a story to tell, it is impossible, man, to tell 40 plus years of history in 2 hours.
Not even 2 hours. It's 2 hours including commercials. So
right.
Half. Yeah.
And even if it was 2 hours, if it was 4 hours, you couldn't do it.
Right. Right.
To do that thing right, they should have at least had a 10-part series.
Right.
You see that Michael Jordan documentary, Last Dance?
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I know.
Well, you heard about it, right? Yeah. It should have been done something. Man, let's take something else that's closer to what we're doing. You got this thing on Netflix about the hip hop thing.
Yep.
You know, man, it should have been done something like that. You know what I'm saying? in order to tell, and then it's a story where my story, Trouble Phone story alone, it's a story.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I'm certain Ray Essence got a great story.
Yep.
Lord knows, Chuck Brown got a great story.
Right.
You know what I mean? Although he's not with us anymore, but there are people that can tell that story, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then to tell it from the beginning up to where it is now, dude, now that's, you know what I'm saying? I think that's something that can really, really be big and really help you understand. I don't really think people really got what they should have gotten out of that
right
documentary.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I really don't think they got what they should have gotten. The only people that really know that it wasn't done, and I had to cut my phone off. I had to cut so many people that go back, you know, man, hey, Big Tony, man, well, we know what was happening. We know. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, hey, man, let me finish watching and then we'll talk about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I actually literally had people calling me in the process of watching this joint.
While the show was actually happening? That's funny.
Yeah.
I had to wait a couple of days first. I was like, all right, I know you need to.
Yeah. It was a part in there where they said, and then my phone was like just lit up. They said, well, the young lady said, well, if Chuck Brown, I can't quote exactly how she said it, but I believe she said, if Chuck Brown is the foundation, then Ray Essence had to build a house or something like that. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, okay, well, first of all, again, in this order, Chuck Brown, Trouble Funk, Ray Essence, EU. Mm-hmm. That's the way the house was built.
Right.
In that order.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, to tell this story, like I said, everybody and if everybody tell the story the way the story's supposed to be told, it'll all make sense.
Right.
But that's the problem. Some people like to embellish it because they want to be recognized as the first. I don't care nothing about. I just want to be a part of something that wins. I don't care about being the first. Mm-hmm. I just care about being a part of something that's great. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So many people is tripping on being able to say we was the first to do. Hey, if you're the first, then more power to you. But don't say you're the first if you wasn't. Don't say that you was the first to record a live go-go album if you wasn't.
Right.
Don't say that you was the first to record an actual hit go-go record if you wasn't. Don't say that you was the first to go take go-go outside of the country if you wasn't. It's like, don't say these things, man. You can't. They spend so much time trying to rewrite history. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. The truth is gonna come out eventually.
Right.
You can't rewrite history, man. And I'm just hoping before I leave this earth, somebody get it right.
Right.
I'm working on a book myself. I'm working on a book, man. I've been working on this book for years, but I'm gonna finish. It's gonna be finished by next year. But I'm working on a book called the name of it's called Big Tony in the World of Trouble. You know, the real story.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not just about go-go. It's about my life, period, and everybody that was a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that I just want to point out that's the difference between people like you and other people that just complain. Because it's one thing to say, I disagree with this, I complain about that, I don't like the way that this was done. If you're going to do it yourself, you know what I mean? And if you're going to, you're not going to make a documentary, but you're going to write a book, you know what I mean? So it's okay for you to take umbrage with it. The thing that I sort of take issue with is people complaining about this wasn't done that way or this wasn't done that way or whatever, but you're not doing anything yourself.
Exactly.
You know? So, the main issue that I had with it is, I sort of understand that that there's only so much you can put in it. You can't put everything in it. I get it. And for real, there's not that big of a market for. It's not like there's a whole bunch of people in Seattle, Washington that want to watch a documentary about go-go because they don't even know what the fuck it is to begin with. So my issue with it was that if you know that's the case and the idea is to let other people know about this genre, then I wish they would have spent more time on talking about how Trouble Funk was sampled 287 times, how Chuck Brown was sampled 400 some odd times, that influenced, and those samples are in music that the people in Seattle know. So you know what go-go is, but you absolutely know what it is because you've been hearing it your whole life. You just didn't know that's what you were hearing. And to me, that's a story, just like you just said. Like you have more platinum and gold plaques on your wall from samples. You know what I mean? And so the only thing I would say is that you're not the first person that I've heard say it should have been a series, and I agree with that. And maybe it will be, but I think they probably had to do one first to see if anybody even cared enough to make a whole series. You know what I mean? Because even though it's personal to us and we care about it and we love it, the rest of the world, you know, there's a very small pocket of people throughout the rest of the world that actually even know what it is. But if they had put a little more context around the fact that you do know what it is.
And it's not like they didn't have it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I told them that whole story about how we would sample. I just knew if nothing else was going to be in there, I just knew that was going to be in there.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So I was very disappointed because of that.
I know there was some issues getting clearances for some songs and stuff like that. Now I don't know if that was just from the go-go bands or that was from the artists or whatever. So I don't know. I got Bo Sampson. It was the executive producer. I think he's gonna be on here next week and he's gonna give us a little more insight into it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think, like you and I discussed, there were some things that they could have talked more about and spent definitely a lot more time on. I do still think, though, my personal opinion, that it was the best representation that we've had of the genre in a very long time. So I wasn't.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, that it was done in the first place. So I don't want to kick and scream too much. I mean, the two bands that I'm most being with, Mambo Sauce and Northeast Groovers, where Mambo Sauce wasn't mentioned at all, and Northeast Groovers was mentioned for 2 seconds. And but I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that because there's a bigger story. So it is what it is.
In my defense, man, I'm just saying, when you've been there and done that, it's hard to settle for less.
I understand. You don't. Right? You got every right to say everything you said. Like there's yeah, absolutely. You were there.
And like I said, I want to sound like I'm bashing it because, like I said, overall, I think it was a win-win for everybody.
Right.
But when you just know the story, it's hard to really accept it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when you fall that far from the mark, it's like I'm certain it was very entertaining to a lot of people that didn't know.
Right. Right.
And there's a lot of people that don't know.
Right.
But it's not doing anything for the real history of, what I'm saying? It's basically, the major thing that I think everybody walked away with that didn't know about go-go is that go-go is here and it's here to stay.
Right. Right.
I think that's the one thing that everybody can walk away that experienced this documentary. Okay. Right. If you didn't get nothing else across, okay, go-go is here to stay.
Right.
It's here. It has arrived. You know what I'm saying? Although, despite the fact that thousands of musicians have sampled and tried to reproduce and just redo this music, and none of that, very little bit about that was mentioned. It's still here. And it ain't going nowhere.
Right. And at least it's shown a little bit of light, and hopefully we can take advantage of it. So speaking of that, what is next for Big Tony and Trouble Funk? What you got on the horizon?
Well, like I said, man, I'm getting ready to get back in the studio so we can finish this album. Definitely want this thing finished by 21, and I don't see like we got about 7 shows, man, that we had to postpone because of this Corona thing.
Yep.
Most of them they're looking at doing it next year.
Yep.
So me myself, I'm not in no big hurry to come back out there. I don't care what they open and who open it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it some time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not Trouble Funk. I can't see Trouble Funk performing no more this year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to next year. I got a call just a couple of weeks ago about coming out to Indiana to headline. They're doing some big festival out there, the 14th, 15th, and the 16th, and they wanted Trouble Funk to headline the 15th, and they was offering nice money plus flight fare.
There you go.
And it was hard to say no, but it was hard to say no, but I just don't think and it was like, man, everything is open. They lifted everything, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, that's good, man, but I just don't feel safe coming out right now.
Right. I think that's smart. Yeah, smart.
All money ain't good money, man. So I mean, I'm blessed, man. God has blessed me, man. I mean, in a way that, I'm just so grateful, man. It's like, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, that's good, man. We'll be looking for some new music, looking for the book, and hopefully we'll get to see Trouble Funk live again pretty soon. Tony, thank you so much for being so patient with all the issues earlier. I mean, it seemed like it was on your side at first, and it was on my side, and it was crazy. Yeah. But I'm glad we got it worked out. And thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we will, have another 3-hour phone call in the next couple of weeks as we normally do anyway. So,
so
much for joining.
Hey, Malachi, if you don't mind, man, I just want to say this. First of all, man, I want to thank you, man, for help keeping this go-go thing alive, man. Now, I really don't know how much people in the go-go industry know about you as far as what you contribute to this movement. But I thought that was kind of whack that you wasn't a part of the thing. But that's another story, man. But I just want to acknowledge and make it acknowledge, man, how much of an important part that you played. And not only you played a part, but you did it out of love, for the love of it. You're probably one of the very few people like myself that did so much stuff and didn't get a dime for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Only because the love of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to take people like yourself, man, to keep this thing alive, man. A lot of people don't even know that you're the one responsible for getting go-go bands out there at the casino. Yep. A lot of people don't even know that. That's fucking history that needs to be told.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, thank you.
You ain't whine. You ain't cry about it. You ain't like, well, man, I come there. You know what I'm saying? But it takes people, man. It takes people to acknowledge the importance of history and what people do to make this thing, keep this thing alive. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And because you're so damn humble about what you do and how you do it, man, somebody needs to step up and make it acknowledged. So I'll be that baby pappy.
Movies ever, the best lines from the best movies ever. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. Thank you, bro.
I really appreciate it, man. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks again so much for joining. I appreciate it.
All right, my man. All right, bro. All right, see you later. Okay.
I'll be that baby. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you for sticking with all the crazy technical difficulties at the beginning. Normally, it's the other person who's having the technical difficulties, and it was that way at the beginning, but somehow I started having technical issues on my side as well today for the first time. So thank you for being so patient and sticking with us. And thank you so much to Tony for doing the same. He doesn't deserve to be talking to silence and having the video feed and stuff cut out when he's telling his story. So I apologize for that. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Check gogotix.co for the upcoming schedule, which, if not updated already, should be updated soon. Next week we have some real OGs in the game. Continuing with this theme, Bo Sampson, who is the executive producer of the TV One documentary, and also Daryl Brooks, who, if you don't know, has a very long and storied history, and just in the music industry in general. And with GoGo, he was the producer and promoter for GoGo Live, and also does the Summer Spirit Festival at Meriwether Post Pavilion every year. So big week next week. Only doing 2 shows next week. I'm be moving to Wednesday and Thursday. The 3 days is getting a little bit too much for me. But thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. All right. Have a good one.